Press start.
Let's actually start the show. Episode 174 of the Current Gen podcast. My name is Tim. I'm here with Dan. Hello, sir.
Hello.
Jeffrey. Well,
Hello. Hold on a minute, dude.
with your
Hello.
wool shirt. And
Hello.
Derek is here. What's up, Derek?
Hey.
If you're watching us on video, whether it's Spotify or YouTube or wherever, you see that Derek has a little bit of a wind-blown hair. And according to him, that's what happens when you play Final Fantasy XVI for 12 hours straight.
Blows your mind in your head.
I was blown away for 12 hours straight.
Yeah, it's very easy to be blown away by that game.
That's what somebody said.
Game's overrated trash.
He pulled
It's
back
over.
from that
It's not Final Fantasy.
7.1, too many white people.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
I mean, all right.
Yeah.
We will talk about Final Fantasy 16. There's a lot more to say there. All of us have continued to play that a bunch. But first, let's just address any new games that have come out this week. It's similar to past weeks in between major AAA releases that everyone's hyped for. There's usually 1 up to 3 or 4 weeks of smaller releases. But there's a good number of games out this week that I think are notable. The first one I want to call out, and it's because we've referenced it before. Jeff's been super hyped for it. We also referenced the old THQ wrestling games on N64 as some of our favorites. And that's AEW Fight Forever, which I think only Jeff and I have gotten and played, right? I don't think you guys...
Kind of feels like it took forever to come out. Am I right?
a little bit.
I was talking about it like not nonstop for a bit of like, it's coming, guys. Kind of like George R. Martin with the dragons and stuff. Like,
It's
coming.
Yeah, and I mean, as soon as I fired up the first match, like, it just, so many nostalgic feelings of the gameplay. It was so much like No Mercy. Not exactly, because the controller is different and certain things about it are different, but so similar to it that I was just like, dude, this is already, like, I don't care what the scores in the game were. That, like, I already see myself playing this a ton just because it feels and looks so much like what I would imagine a No Mercy remastered, for example, could look like. It kind of has that feeling to it and vibe. But Jeff, what do you think about it? It's finally here. I know the reviews aren't, the most stellar for the year, but what do you think about it?
It was easy for me to kind of not disregard, but at least kind of consider the scores on a curve, because I felt like most of them were not wrestling game fans. Like, maybe I saw a lot of comparisons. Like, obviously they're comparing it to WWE 2K, which is probably as real as you can get, I guess, with a wrestling game. But for me personally, I've never understood why people would wanted that out of a wrestling game. Right. I want it to be arcadey. But I'm just saying that the reviews that I watched of YouTubers that are very popular in the wrestling community, they really love this game. Like, they're like, hey, yeah, 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10. Like, they just love it because they, like us, played WrestleMania 2000, No Mercy, WCW versus NWO Revenge. They played all those games religiously. Yep. So I'm like them in that I played this game and I was like, oh my God, it's just an evolved No Mercy. It's trying to do what No Mercy was doing, where it's completely simplified gameplay. Like, anybody can pick it up and play it, but they're adding little things to it, little nuances to it. In certain poses you do, in the way you steal finishers, the way you interact with weapons, like, certain things tiny things have changed. And the career mode, I did not expect to have as much detail as it does, even though it's not like a 2K game where you're like getting voice acting that's competent. You're not getting a dense system. It's still arcadey in a way. It reminds me of Yakuza in a lot of ways, where it's like each week you're given like 4 days to do something, and you kind of have to use those 4 things economically, where you can choose to eat food, and that recharges your battery and makes you less likely to get injured. You can work out, which will increase your stamina and stuff for the next match, but there's a chance of getting injured if you work out, depending on the intensity of the workout. Like, there's stuff like that I'm like, what is this doing in the game? I thought this was just going to be a dumb arcade game. I really didn't. Or you can,
that. When you go out, you can like sightsee in different cities.
Yeah.
Stop it.
It's like Yakuza.
If you go sightseeing, then like it'll increase your mood for that week, and then you come in with more momentum into the match. Like,
okay.
Yeah,
which is
why
awesome.
not? Yeah, I
And
think
you can
it's
buy
I think
little
it's
power ups too between every week. You can buy a power up that's like gives you an edge in the next match. Like one of them is like you can I think you need a lot of coin for it, but one of them is like you can just have a special bar for like
ready
the whole match.
That's awesome.
And just spam your special. But yeah, there's a lot of power ups like that in between.
There's plenty of ways to upgrade. I mean, it's not necessarily like strength, speed, and all that kind of stuff, but they do have some of that where you can increase the power of your arm hits or your leg hits or your grapple moves. So you can increase that power by working out or winning matches. So you can increase that. There's also, you can unlock additional finishing moves. So think about a wrestler like The Rock who has a ton of like signature / finishers that he's used, or there's other wrestlers too that have done that. Some really only have one, but like
Jericho has like 4 now. Yeah,
Jericho has.
He's been wrestling for so long that he has like
Sting
4.
has a bunch. Right, he'll do the Stinger Splash. He'll do the reverse DDT, the Death Drop. He'll do the Scorpion Deathlock or whatever. So he has a bunch. So like every wrestler will have a different number of finishers, but anyway, you can add on to them, which I thought was cool. Like as your wrestler grows, you can add a new finisher. You can increase the damage of it. So I like those pieces of it. I thought the Creator Wrestler, even though compared to WWE, it's not as detailed, true, but it's still pretty in depth. Like it can still take you a minute to create a wrestler and get the right look.
I think the moves is where you spend the most time.
I spent so much time on the moves. I wanted to create
that's
like
what No Mercy
giant
felt like
wrestler,
too.
and so I wanted to make sure he didn't have any weird luchador moves.
So. He's randomly giving her kamanas and you're like, this makes no sense.
Like, well, what? So yeah, just lots of power moves and clotheslines and slams and all that. So, but that was a lot of fun. And then coming up with his name and like,
oh my gosh,
all that stuff.
All right, what did you guys name your wrestlers?
I'm trying to remember.
My guy's just Mr. Zero, and then he joined.
Yeah.
In the Road to Elite, depending on the storylines and how things go, you can get invited to join a team or a faction. And so I got invited to join the faction that makes the most sense, which is the Death Triangle. They already kind of have that.
Oh, sweet. Yes.
Here, so
those guys rule. Those guys rule so good. So good.
Yeah. Oh that was kind of fun. It very much felt like my experience going through the No Mercy campaign, where you go through a storyline with No Mercy, although that game, you can make an argument, it's not all about the campaign, but if you're playing by yourself, that's not a bad mode.
You're like, oh, I lost, and then the tree. It's more like a very crude, like tree branching type of deal with that career mode. Yeah.
Yep. And I actually, the opening Royal Rumble, I did not win that one.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah, I won it. I got used to the gameplay, and I was like, holy crap, I'm eliminating people. What's going on?
I set it on normal, which was a mistake because I wasn't quite good at it yet. Like I was okay. It was coming back to me. So I think I was like fifth. I finished fifth. I was fifth.
Oh, nice.
So then I set it back to easy. I was like, I need to win this Road to Elite. Like I want to win all these matches the rest of the way. So I set it back to easy and just kind of cruising.
I think I honestly got lucky because there were several guys gave me a finisher, like several of them, and then somebody would pull them off me right before I'm about to get eliminated. And I'm like, oh my God, like I'm getting so lucky. It was just a matter of luck for my win on that one. But that was a long one. It was like a 20-person battle royal. And it just like No Mercy, 4 people in the ring at a time. Yeah. Once one person goes out, another one comes out.
You can grab weapons out of the crowd just like before. Like
under the ring too. Yeah.
Under the ring. Yeah. So you can grab weapons, beat each other up. I haven't played any of the crazy modes yet. I've been mostly doing Elite, which by the way, they use some real footage from wrestling. So it'll do like a cutscene of real footage from an AEW. Like in my storyline, I interacted with CM Punk, and he picked, like, it was a friendly thing where he like picked me as his, returning matchup or whatever. And so I beat him in that match, but then it went to the actual, it went to the actual, I know it was set on easy though. Went to the actual footage of him making his return to AEW, which was like chill inducing. Even if you're not a big wrestling fan, it was just like, dude, there's thousands of people chanting his name. And then when his music starts playing, there's this huge pop of the crowd going nuts. And then they're just cheering. And then when he comes walking out, there's another pop. And then when he comes out, he kind of kneels there and just soaking it all in. And then when he stands up and yells like, let's effing go. And then there's another huge crowd pop. Like, it's just, the energy was unreal.
They literally had to break that segment, that return segment up into like a commercial break, because he would come out.
Yeah.
They were cheering, going wild. He did a crowd dive, like a stage dive. He was just making his way to the ring, really, and they were cheering so loudly that they had to be like, CM Punk's going to talk after the break, because they wouldn't stop cheering. They had to break it up. But they knew that going into the show. They knew it was going to be a long segment. That segment is, regardless of my current feelings on CM Junk, as I call him, he's
clever, very clever.
That moment, very clever. He's never heard that before. That moment is just I mean, it's just one of the best in modern wrestling, like the current modern era of wrestling. Like it's just the amount of people that were so emotional. Even Punk was emotional when he was kneeling and taking it in.
Yeah.
It was a big moment because he walked away for like 9 years or whatever it was. Anyway, that's cool that they included it in the game in time because he just came back like a year, it felt like a year ago.
Yeah, because then you have like big beef with the WWE.
The
like,
date on it said August of
left
21. Yeah. August of 21 was the date on the.
Oh, 21. Okay. See, I think it's interesting that they included that footage because Cody Rhodes is now like one of the biggest stars in WWE. He's like their top guy right now. He is getting so cheered so heavily and stuff, but he's still in the AEW game, and you're like, what?
Yeah.
how did they manage to keep him in here? It makes no sense.
Yeah.
But it's good for him, I guess, And he's got this extravagant entrance anyway, but not that it matters because that's one of the bones, I guess, we could have to pick. The game's not without criticisms.
Oh, there's certainly I see why the scores aren't super high. It's got some of the jankiness of like, all right, well, I just did a big clothesline that went right through the guy's body. Why didn't it hit? Well, that's because he was in the middle of a different animation. Like, it feels very much like the old N64 game, where as you play it, you kind of get accustomed to, yes, these hits or grapples won't work if that character is in the middle of a different type of animation or whatever. Like, you kind of start to get used to that. So that was very familiar to me, but I could see how people would play that totally fresh and go,
yeah, by modern standards, you're
this
like,
is a little off.
What the hell? Yeah.
Right. But as someone who played so many hours of those older games, like way too many hours, it felt like home
felt right at home,
right away. Yeah. Yeah, right away.
Like, oh, it's janky. Oh, it's just like the other games. Like I actually expected it, honestly. Especially because the more arcadey you tend to lean in a wrestling game, that's more likely to happen. Yeah. I love that they. We're going to go into cons, of course, but I love that they captured the spirit of AEW, which is to be ridiculous, and because they included stuff like an exploding barbed wire death match, which is stupid. It's so dumb. You throw people against the ropes, and there's just like blood everywhere. It's comical, and after every, I think it's 90 seconds, the ring explodes, and both of you go down to like Danger Spirit Bar. It's so dumb. It's so.
Did you play any of the mini games yet, Jeff?
No, not yet. Are those dumb too? I've heard they're pretty dumb.
Absolutely dumb. Like one of them was just who can catch the most coins. So it's literally it's like a 4-player match. Right? It's a free for all. So you start in each corner, and you still can run around and just hit or grapple if you want to, but grappling kind of screws you over because you're going to miss all the coins that are dropping. Yeah. So you kind of want to just run around punching or kicking at other players and collecting as many coins as you can, but it's so dumb. Like you'll just get wiped out and then get up and start to collect more coins.
Yeah.
It just looks so stupid. All these beefcakes running around collecting these shiny coins.
And there's kind of like a battle royal in a gaming sense mode coming out later that's going to be online where it's 30 wrestlers in one area. 30 online players in one area, and it's called Stadium Stampede. And you're literally in an empty stadium just fighting each other.
Oh, okay.
And it was popularized during the pandemic era where they couldn't have fans and stuff like that. But the thing is, they're going to include, like, you can ride horses in that mode. You can, like, ride golf carts and run people over.
I saw the screenshot of the horse.
So
it's ridiculous.
Dumb. It's so dumb. But AEW, sometimes they capture that. Like, this is wrestling. It's ridiculous. It's supposed to be fun and ridiculous. They don't do it all the time. It's not every week stupid, but it's, that it really captures the spirit of it. Anyway,
and if you look back at the Attitude era, they certainly embraced the dumb and the ridiculous. Like we always remember the cool stuff, like the breaking a glass while Stone Cold comes stomping out to like smash a beer with somebody. Like that was cool back to us back then. Yeah. But they had so much ridiculous stuff. Everything from like Al Snow with Head.
Yeah, what does everybody want?
Yeah. Head! What does everybody need?
And me not understanding
love?
At that age what the hell that meant.
I was just like, oh, cool. So like everyone wants a mannequin head, right?
Well, he would just hold the mannequin head up, and he's like, yeah. And it's like, no, well,
I mean, there was a literal pimp. The Godfather.
Yes.
He was a literal pimp and would have hose, and he would try to sell his hose to his opponent every single week. So like. It's always existed in wrestling. Yeah, not problematic at all.
Not even a little bit.
Those like B-tier, C-tier wrestlers, like they were just outrageous.
I was actually kind of pumped to customize my own entrance. No Mercy actually has a deeper customization of your entrance than this game does, which is a little disappointing for a modern game.
I barely touched that part of the creator wrestler. Yeah. So is that just limited options or something?
You literally just walk up. It's much like the WCW N64 games, which were very limited too.
It's real short.
Right, where you just come out to the ramp and do a pose, and then and then it cuts to the next guy or cuts to the ring.
Yeah, No Mercy could have lengthy intros. I remember.
Yeah, you could walk like you could literally change your walk from shot to shot, which was so ridiculous. Like I would be literally running out to the top of the ramp, and then the next shot I'm just doing like a lady walk down the ramp. Like it makes no sense. But this game doesn't have that, which is a little disappointing. But maybe they're trying to be like, hey, this is a template, much like the WCW games. This is a template, and the next game's going to be even more extravagant if we get the resources for it. Maybe I don't know. Hope for the best, but I don't anticipate sales being that high. But AEW is a cash cow because the owner is a cash cow. It's not so much the sales and stuff that they're getting. Don't get me wrong; people go to their shows, but the owner is Tony Khan and his dad is Shahid Khan, I think. I think that's his name. They own the Jaguars.
He owned the Jaguars.
Yeah. They own the Jaguars, and I think they own a soccer/football team, whatever. And they definitely have shares in like oil companies and stuff. So they are super loaded. And if they wanted to make another game, they could just do it.
Which makes sense because when on the road to elite mode, when you're in Jacksonville for a show and you hit sightseeing, you go to the Jacksonville Jaguars Stadium and like look at it.
Yeah. That's where they had the stadium stampede.
Which makes sense.
Because football was canceled and wrestling was the only thing that was still going, whether it was WWE
I would
or
say
AEW.
the main criticisms of it are if you aren't nostalgic for these N64 games, you might not find the gameplay as good as someone else like myself or like Jeff might. Like it's all I want in a wrestling game. Like for me personally, but I'm very biased because that's the kind that I grew up playing.
Right.
And I still think they deliver and they're super fun. And I don't like the 2K versions as much. I've enjoyed them in little spurts here and there.
I think they've scaled back since I think the last year's game was 2K22, and then this year's game. They've definitely scaled back on the realism and been like, okay, let's get more arcade stuff in here and make it fun again.
Right.
Which
they made some good strides.
There's still there's still some mini games within the match itself that I'm like, no, I don't want those. If you're gonna do mini games,
combos you got to hit and things like that. Yeah.
Like for doing submissions and stuff, and to break there's like a meter when you want to break a pinfall, and I'm like, stop doing that. Just let me button mash.
Yeah.
But it's good to have that option, because it's kind of like with Madden now for years it was just Madden, right? It's like, some kind of competition would be nice, so it's these guys start making.
I want the Blitz alternative, because NFL Blitz is what I loved playing. I don't care about
NBA Jam compared to NBA 2K or whatever.
He's on fire. I want all that stuff. I don't really care about career mode, realism.
Yep.
Yeah, and I know that's like a niche upon a niche audience, but.
The criticism for a game like this, for me, number one is that it's as expensive as it is, and it's on sale on the Steam store. It's still at $52. Full price was $60 on Steam.
Good lord,
that's a little pricey. But it's on sale.
It's not a full $60. I wouldn't say the content is that much. This is the kind of game
that I would recommend for anyone at that price. If you played and loved the old THQ N64 games, and you are pining for those kind of days and those kind of games. Get this game. It's worth $50 in my opinion. But if you're kind of curious about it and think it could be fun to play, or you're kind of a mild wrestling fan, wait for a sale. It'll go on sale later this year for sure.
Surely.
And wait for a sale. But it is good, and it is very limited single player. The Road to Elite mode, I think I'm already halfway through it.
Yeah. It's because I think you're supposed to play it like 3 or 4 times to unlock everything that comes with it. Yeah. That's what they want. It's
really meant to be like a lot of the challenges even are play this exhibition, play this type of they want you to just do exhibition matches and just have fun and create your own and play online. They want you to play online a lot. So it's not really meant to be some in-depth story-based single player experience, but they do have I would say pretty decent little campaign. Even though it's not it's not meant to blow you away in terms of its in-depth. And anyway, same thing with the No Mercy game. No Mercy game kind of had a similar little thing where all of a sudden The Rock would come out and he'd be shaking around as it tells you underneath I'll challenge you for the Intercontinental belt, as he'd be kind of moving.
I forgot about that. They had Parkinson's or something when they were talking.
It just looked really fun, their blocked fists just holding the microphone. Well, Dan, you like Final Fantasy VII. You know all about the block fists from those old games.
Oh yeah, absolutely. No fingers, just they had no fingers, just stumps.
And he would get mad and slam a table. It's just this.
Except for when Stone Cold was given the middle finger, then you'd be like, oh, they could do fingers now.
Hey, they did a finger. Yeah.
There was a lot of budget went into that. A lot of budget went into the middle finger.
Yeah, that would probably cost thousands of dollars to do that one animation.
I think it's safe. This to me is this is a great Swimming in Sevens game for me. This is the kind of game when Kyle has talked about, Wanted Dead, I know that didn't review really well, but he likes that kind of game, really enjoyed it. Or when Derek will jump in and play a game that maybe doesn't review as well, but he's just like, dude, I don't know what to tell you. Like, I really enjoy it. Like, I got hooked on it. Like, this is that kind of game for me, where it's like, I understand the not amazing reviews. I think it's averaging like in the high 60s. Yeah. So I get it. But there are a few reviews that are like in the 80s, and one of them I think was even 90 from a reputable place. So I was like, yeah, this is that kind of game.
I think it depends on the type of wrestling fan that reviewed it.
Exactly.
Like if you grew up on the 2K games, you're like, no, maybe.
Yes. But
or
THQ
it's a mess.
games, you're like,
but THQ games, you're like, that's it. That's for me.
Exactly. So that one's really fun, and I do imagine it'd be fun with multiplayer as well. I'll try some online modes at some point too, just to see how that goes. But speaking of online or multiplayer, Everybody 1-2 Switch is out. Anyone playing this one?
How about 1-2 no?
Let's answer on 2.
I got a question about. It's just a quick question, because you guys were talking about you like the wrestling games to be more arcadey. Did either one of you ever play the Battlegrounds game from 2K, which is more? So. It is all arcadey.
Oh, you're talking about NBA?
No, WWE.
Oh, is it?
It looks like little figurines, sort of, right?
Yeah.
Is it that one? Yeah.
Is that a mobile game?
No.
I don't think
I
did.
It. I missed that one.
It's like a major release. It's just like an arcadey like wrestling game. Battlegrounds from WWE.
I remember that one. I didn't play it, but I do remember.
I totally missed that one because I think I was in my really, really picky phase when I was a gamer at that point.
WWE 2K
like,
Battlegrounds.
It doesn't look the same, or
so
whatever.
It's still a 2K game, but it's Battlegrounds. Oh yeah, they look like little.
Yeah. It's their arcade.
They look cartoony. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have seen this, but I didn't get it just because. If there was a demo for it, I would absolutely try it. But I think the mediocre reviews kind of made me go, I don't know. Like, it didn't have the promise of something like this, which promised we're trying to be like No Mercy. But I am interested in this.
Oh yeah, there are some supernatural attacks and stuff too.
Yeah,
it's silly.
Yeah, there's a lot of fire going on.
I think it's the same people that made like NBA Playground, which is like
that's the one I was thinking of.
That
when you
game's
said
fun.
Battlegrounds, I was like, oh, that NBA game, like that's because that's
I
played that.
I like the
and now they're releasing an NFL one, but it's not an NFL one. It's like it's some dumb. It really looks stupid, like
AFL or something.
Yeah, I didn't like.
Remember NFL Street? Remember that game? Because they had a bunch of.
I didn't play that one as much, but I really liked Blitz and all that stuff.
I love Blitz.
NFL Street was the closest thing we had to Blitz in a while, but it still wasn't up to snuff. It wasn't quite.
Yeah.
It wasn't Blitz. Blitz was.
I think for me, it was like too ghetto. Like I don't like overly ghetto stuff. That's just me. Like if you advertise it with like a lot of rap music and stuff like that, I'm like, nope, I'm good.
Okay.
That's fair. That's totally fair. Because you drive around in your convertible all day, making your hair look like that. I get it.
Yeah,
I get it.
My rap music.
With your. All right, so no one's playing Everybody 1-2 Switch.
I don't even know what it is. What kind of game it is? Is it just mini games?
It's a party game.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it's a sequel to the one that launched with it, which I think was just called 1-2 Switch, and now this is Everybody.
Oh, was that like with the guns and stuff like that?
Maybe.
Or like you did a duel?
Wasn't there like the milking mini game?
I think it did have a duel. I think it did have milking too. I think it had both of those things.
Milking?
Yeah.
It's so funny.
It's a party game. It was like trying to recapture the magic of the Nintendo Wii of like hand a controller to your grandma, and then all she has to do is wave her arm back and forth, and she can play with you. You know what I mean? It's that kind of.
Right.
Even grandma can milk the cow.
It's a little WarioWare, little Wii Sports. It's all kind of in that same.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Vein. So it looks like probably a fun. I think it got like 70s ish. Like it's a swimming in sevens party game. So. Story of Seasons has a new game called A Wonderful Life. Now, for a second, I got excited because I thought, oh, this is actually on Game Pass. But no, they released last year's Story of Seasons game on Game Pass.
And technically, it's not a new game. It's a remake of one of the old Harvest Moons.
A Wonderful Life is?
Yeah.
Okay, so the one from last year was something about, was it Mineral Town? Is that the one that came out in Game Pass?
Well, Mineral Town was also a remake. I think it's something of Olive Town.
One just came on Game Pass like yesterday, and it's a Story of Seasons game, and I thought it was the new one, but it's not.
I think that's that one. That one's probably the remake then, because I think it's like Olive Town.
It came out last. It says released in 2022, so I don't know.
That is so frustrating. They would change the name because you said Harvest Moon, and I was like, oh, I know that name.
Yeah, because
why would you change the name?
It's IP.
So we have this. Yeah, we do this every time because it is confusing.
Okay.
It is confusing. So the publisher that owns the rights to the name Harvest Moon kept that, but the team that used to make Harvest Moon splintered off, and they do Story of Seasons.
Okay.
So basically, Story of Seasons is actually the good ones. Like those are the actual Harvest Moon, like
It's not like it's not like a soulless Harvest Moon Konami type deal.
Yes,
like,
exactly.
Imagine,
I want to say it was Natsume, right? Wasn't Natsume the company that did Harvest Moon?
I think so. Yeah, I believe it. And they've since made their own Harvest Moon game, and they're trash.
People don't like them. Right.
Yeah, they're trash. So.
But Dan, have you played this new one, A Wonderful Life?
No, I'm hearing that it's kind of like that other one that was a remake of a handheld one too, and it's like it like if you were super into that, then you're nostalgic for that and you'll like it, but it doesn't have the features of like what would be like in a Stardew Valley, for example. That's a newer farm sim game, you know what I mean? So there's newer features, more features going on. This is lacking in things. So
there's a demo of a Switch game that's coming out here in about 3 weeks. Pikmin 4 demo did release.
Sorry.
I think Jeff, you're the only one who's got it pre-ordered, right? Or Derek, do you have it pre-ordered too?
I have it pre-ordered.
Derek does too. Okay.
This does not. I'm very surprised that Derek likes these games or expects.
He's always liked the Pikmin games. Yeah.
That's just interesting to me because as I'm playing it, I'm like, what? How is this?
He's throwing the curveballs in there. He's throwing the curveballs.
This is so surprising.
Did you play the demo, Derek? Did you download the demo?
No, I don't need to. I already know I like it.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Jeff, what do you think? Because you haven't really played Pikmin games before.
I've played 0 Pikmin games, so the demo is my first time, and my understanding is the demo is like a full 2 hours. Like it's a full.
It's like the
does it carry over? If it carries over, I'll play it.
I didn't even look that up because I just wanted to get my hands on to try and justify my pre-orders. You know, I just wanted to see, is this something I would like?
Does it feel like the beginning of the game, like introducing it to you little by little? Then it might carry over.
Might carry over, yeah, because it does feel like it made me design my character,
yes,
made me title my character. Like I think I named him Groff. I'm stupid.
Oh my god, Groff.
Yeah. I think, by the way, my wrestler in AEW's name was Florfy or something like that, something stupid.
Florfy.
I gotta send you a pic because he looks so dumb. Anyway,
it does carry over.
It
carries over. Okay, cool.
So it's worth it then. Much like Final Fantasy 16, where it was like
I love when demos do that. You know? Octopath Traveler does that too. Like I love when demos carry over like that.
Oh, dude, yeah. When Octopath did that, I was like, oh, thank God! Like that was already 3 hours in the game. I could just immediately pick it up. Yeah. But yeah, I've found myself really enjoying. Like at first, I was like, oh, okay. I was kind of rolling my eyes a little bit. This is too cute. And then as I kept playing the game and throwing Pikmin at things and as it had me puzzle solving a little more, I was like, you know what? No, I could see myself playing this obsessively. Like it's really fun. And it is overly cute, but
it's kind of relaxing.
Expectation is there. Yeah, it's very relaxed. Like I'm going from fast traveling everywhere in Final Fantasy, trying to get the things done, trying to beat the bosses quick. And I'm going to this, and they're very slow and deliberate about like, here, you should go over here. Let's take our time as we walk over there. And it's a very different change of pace for me, but it's a welcome one. Like I didn't realize I needed it, until I played it.
Well, it's also very unique.
I'll keep the pre-order. It's going to be a fun game for me, a relaxing one.
Okay. And it looks nice too, right? It's a pretty good looking little game.
Oh yeah. It's Unreal 4. I think.
It looked good. Like Pikmin 3 looked good on the Wii U. It's just got Nintendo's art style, which goes good with their consoles.
That's right. Yep.
In the opening puzzle area, you excavate like a Game Boy Advance. So I mean, they add Nintendo stuff into it as well. It was like little winks, I guess, not so subtle ones, but little winks to the gamer, I guess. So that's cool. That's cool that they include. Like it's very much a Nintendo property through and through.
Yeah, love it. That's awesome. Speaking of which, we've mentioned Octopath. That just reminded me that the Steam summer sale has started, and I did see that Octopath Traveler 2 is down to $41, I think. So I think I'm going to grab it.
Do it.
Sweet.
Do it.
Yes.
There's so many good sales right now on Steam. Not that you guys need more games. I'm sorry to even bring this up. I really do apologize for even bringing it up. But
Tim, what are you doing?
There are so many good sales on this summer sale. If there's a game that maybe you were holding off a little bit, it might be on sale because just glancing through the list, I'm like, is everything on sale? Like, it seems like everything.
Almost my entire wish list went on sale, and I was like,
yeah, it's crazy.
I had to pick and choose. So like, I did actually partake in the sale, and I bought 3 games, didn't install a single one of them because I was like, I have no time for these. I have 0 time for this.
It's like they're doing it on purpose.
What Valve can do now, and they actually are, is they can put Steam Deck on sale too. That's featured on the sale, is you can get 10% off a Steam Deck, things like that. So that's pretty smart.
It's actually smart. For the higher tier one, it's 20% off, which is actually a really good deal.
That's a great deal. Yeah, that is a good one. Things like Red Dead 2 being down to 20 or Cyberpunk being down to 30. I mean,
especially I think they have that package with the DLC that's coming out in September. So I think you can get both for under 60, which I think the DLC is 30 by itself. So it actually makes the base game even cheaper. So
that's awesome. Yeah, that's great. All right, so yeah, make sure you check that out if you are playing on PC or Steam Deck. Lots of good stuff there. Crime O'Clock looks cool, but Jeff doesn't sound like it's actually.
It was super cheap. I bought it for $15.
It's a little like mystery game, right? Kind of a thing.
Yeah, but it's like a Where's Waldo mystery game, devoid of color.
So you got to just find something that's hidden. It's there somewhere. You just have to spot it.
Yeah, you have to spot it, and then you're able to shift through time. This is where a clock part comes in. You can shift through time, and it changes the images on the screen, so you can kind of detail where the crime occurred.
Is it like a kid
where
game?
The criminal went.
Is it trying to be like kid friendly with its approach?
A little bit.
Where's Waldo?
This one. This is the one that I had forgotten about, and then Tim was like, "Oh, it was at the Direct, and it looked like it's all black and white, and it just looks like it's a lot. Cool. There's almost too much going on, but it looks interesting. Looks interesting.
Yeah, I just went through the guided tutorial, and I was like, "There's no way I'm going to be able to find these crimes on my own. Like 0 chance I'll find anything going on."
Now, did you get that on Steam? Can you get a refund?
No, I got it on the Switch store.
Oh, so no refund. Sorry about that.
I guess not, but that's okay.
Yeah. Another one that came out that I only played the demo for, but man, the reviews on this look crazy, is Ghost Trick Phantom Detective. This is actually a Capcom game by the same guy who created the Phoenix Wright series.
Makes sense. It's like a similar style.
I believe it was a mobile game he made, but they've now, I think, I could be wrong on that, but I think the idea is that they brought Ghost Trick now to consoles. It's totally updated. It looks a lot better.
Yeah, I thought it was a remake of something.
Yeah, it's basically a port / remaster, that whole deal. But it definitely has a good Ace Attorney style. The characters remind me of Ace Attorney stuff. The dialogue is pretty clever and witty. Like, I think the Ace Attorney games have great dialogue and characters in them. If you haven't played those, but the idea is that at the very beginning, it's very funny too. Like, you are this guy who's wearing this all red suit with this crazy kind of Johnny Bravo haircut, and the scene opens up and he's pointing out who these different characters are. There's a girl standing there. She's got her hands up in the air, and then it zooms in on a bad guy who's got a gun pointed at her. And then it zooms into your body between them laying there dead. But the way you landed, like your butt's in the air, like you look ridiculous, but you're dead. Sure. And he realizes that's him, and now he's a spirit who has to like possess different things. And so like the beginning, you can possess like the gate and then raise it to knock the gun loose from the guy's hand to give the girl a chance to get away. So it's that kind of a game where you're like environmental puzzles. You got to figure out what to interact with. And then there's a time component to the idea that you're a ghost and you have tricks. They keep talking about it. It's very on the nose. Like, oh, I'm a ghost and I can do tricks. Ghost trick. Like they keep.
Sure.
It's a little cheesy.
Very literal.
Very literal. But I do think it's clever. Like if you like kind of puzzle conceptual games, kind of like that, and a little bit of a mystery too, of course. Like who are you? Who killed you? Why are you dead? Like you don't have a lot of memories because you're just ghost floating around. So
who's your daddy and what does he do? That's one of the questions.
That's pretty good.
Ghost daddy.
Yeah.
Who's your daddy?
But this is getting like 88s, 89s. Like it's getting crazy.
Yeah, I saw the scores and I was like, I'm still not going to play it, guys. I'm sorry.
But I remember hearing this was a pretty solid game. Like,
yeah, I think if you like, solving mysteries, kind of a little bit of puzzle, a little bit of like find the thing in the environment that you need to find in order to advance. It's a little bit of those elements to it. Not an action game, although there are timers sometimes where you have to move quickly. But yeah, it's a little silly, but it's a very unique game. Got to give it that. Last new game I wanted to highlight is, and this is a shout out to our buddy Kyle, who's not joining us tonight, but this is one that he has had his eye on for a while. I think he mentioned it on the show, and I had just blanked on it. Yeah. And now that it's out of early access and it's full release now. The 1.0 is out, or 1. Whatever. Dave the Diver.
Dave the Diver.
Dave the Diver.
I wonder what the game's about. Some guy named Dave and he's diving. That's what you
I love that he's full on like dad bod Dave sitting on the beach.
Yeah, he is. Mustache and
he's just a fat dude with one of those goatee looks, and he
not a lot of stamina at the restaurant.
Not a lot of stamina. Like it's hard for him to run from the kitchen down to like serve him. He's getting winded. That's pretty funny. But it's one of those games that has the pixelated graphics yet it looks modern. Like they do a nice job of making it look kind of nice. But it is. There's a whole bunch of different games you can compare it to. Something like Moonlighter, where you go out and have an adventure and explore and collect. Then you come back and run a shop in Moonlighter. This is similar, sort of. Moonlighter's a little darker, a little more serious, a little bit at least. And this one's super silly. And the idea is you're trying to bring back all these ingredients to make better sushi at this restaurant. And when you find a new recipe or upgrade a dish, your main chef does this whole it looks like a samurai, or what was that Samuel L. Jackson Cartoon Network samurai? What was that one called?
Afro Samurai.
Yeah. It's like an Afro Samurai moment where zoom in on him, and the light will go across his glasses, and then a sword will come up, and he'll chop up food real quick, and then
that's so
have
ridiculous.
Inspiration. So it's these ridiculous cutscenes. There's also this really, really hefty dude who's sitting there playing video games, but he'll stop and create weapons for you, and it'll show him put on these power gloves to create them, and then. And I'm not kidding. He'll look at his anime figurines and then get inspiration to finish the or you're it's very funny. It's very funny. Yeah. He even sends you on a side mission to go find one of his missing figurines, and it makes him very happy. So anyway,
everything's in the water, man.
Everything fell into the water.
Yeah.
So, but it's got a good progression system. It's not completely procedurally generated. I thought it was at first, but depending on what your mission set is, there'll be a different layout. Of ocean when you go down.
Yeah, you're never diving into the same. If you're at a certain spot, for example, I had to surface because I ran out of oxygen, and then when I went back down, it was the same exact layout for the sea ocean, whatever, because I hadn't completed my mission yet. So it's dependent on your mission, what you're asked to do. That's the design of the sea at that moment, in that moment in time. It's pretty though, like you said though. I love the art design.
And the animation is really nice. It kind of looks good when things are moving around. But the idea is you go and you start at the shallow parts of the ocean hunting smaller fish, and then the fish get bigger and more aggressive, and you eventually get down to the depths where it gets really dark. You have to get a headlamp upgrade, and you have to upgrade your suit so you can go deeper, and so your oxygen doesn't run out. And you have a harpoon gun, so that way you can catch fish. And you can also shoot them. You get a bunch of underwater guns, but if you shoot them, you get less meat and it's lower quality.
Yeah, I was going to say the quality is going to be...
The harpoon makes it medium quality, and if you use any kind of trank dart or net, which you can unlock those things later, then you get the top quality of the fish. So they give you... It's got these these little layers to it that I'm this has a surprising amount of depth. So a little bit of Moonlighter, also a little bit of SteamWorld Dig 2, where every run... you're upgraded, but there's some pieces that you're going to have to pick up along the way on every run. So it's a little bit, if you like SteamWorld Dig 2, you might like this loop as well. I just think it's super fun.
I only did one loop, quote unquote, where I went down and got some fish and then went back and ran the restaurant for a shift. And I was I already see the loop here and I already love it. But I just, I'm so focused on Final Fantasy that I just haven't dove
I totally get it.
Dove at and more than that. So
yeah, it was a good one. I played it on my Steam Deck while my wife and I were watching a documentary the other night, and it was a good kind of mindless one. I didn't need headphones in to listen to any story. It's just a little pixelated.
I played it when I was watching wrestling, and I was of course I can do something else when I watch wrestling. Yeah.
So it's a fun one for that kind of thing. You do the restaurant at nighttime. You go back and you help run a sushi shop. And it does get super crowded. You start to unlock all these recipes and additional drinks, and you have to start hiring staff to help you.
Good. I was going to say, if it's just you the whole time, oh my God. Dude.
Yeah. No, and you can upgrade their skills and stuff. And so it gets pretty in depth. But
there's a lot going on in this game that's $15. I paid for it. It was it
was $17.99 for me. Yeah.
That's what it was. It was $18 because it was already 20 or 15% off because of the launch sale. I was this is a really good price for a game that's pretty dense. It's surprisingly dense for what it's doing.
Just on Steam, huh?
Yeah.
It is, although this is a perfect Switch game. I don't know why it's not on Switch yet. I imagine that'll
Maybe
be
someday.
a platform that they target.
Yeah.
Just because of the audience size and also the appeal, just the look of it. It just looks and feels like a Switch game.
Definitely.
So, and by the way, speaking of Switch, apparently the AEW version, the Switch version is awful. Like performance-wise, apparently it's real choppy and runs horrible.
Oh, that's disappointing, but because you would expect a game like that isn't very demanding, so it would be fine on any platform. On PS4, Xbox One, doesn't matter. Like, it would be fine.
Yeah.
But that's still, that's a bummer.
That is a bummer. I don't know if it needs to be patched or if it's just it's beyond its capability. It's hard to say. I don't know. You see Nintendo put out games like Derek was saying earlier, like you see them put out stuff that looks like Pikmin and like Zelda and Mario and all these other games. It's like it's possible. Maybe people just don't know how to optimize for it.
Much like the Series S, they're just like, am I banging their head against the wall?
I know, yeah.
How do I optimize for this?
How am I going to make it work on this?
How do I backwards optimize?
Yep, absolutely. All right, so a couple new things that came out this week in terms of shows and movies. I know, Derek, you've watched the first 2 seasons of Witcher, right?
Yeah, I started the 3rd season too.
Okay.
Oh, nice.
What do you think about the beginning of it so far? Because I'm on the last episode now. What do you think of the start, at least, of the 3rd season?
Yeah, I mean, I liked episode 1. I thought the action that they did have was good. Yeah, it's chatty, but all seasons of The Witcher have been chatty. So the review I watched, I don't know. I think I'm only episode and a half in. I feel like he was just nitpicking maybe a little too much because the stuff they're chatting about is relevant. Like I like the way where season 3 picks up, where I forgot. Like I
had to watch some recaps.
I was like, I'm like, why is she writing these letters to Geralt? Like, why is she saying friend? Blah, blah, and I'm like, oh, okay, got it.
I forgot at the end why he was so mad at her. I was like, what did she do again? Like, so I had to recap some of that.
Yeah, Yennefer keeps writing Geralt letters, even though they're literally right by each other.
I would say
they won't talk to each other, but
it's because he won't talk to her. They keep looking at each other sort of longingly, but then he angrily goes back into his hut or wherever they're staying. It was an interesting way to do a montage. They're trying to show you that Geralt, Yennefer, and Ciri are on the run for whatever reason. At the end of the last season, you kind of find out some things, and so they're on the move. And Yennefer's trying to train Ciri with some of her magic, and so they kind of do a little bit of a montage of that.
I thought it was kind of humorous, but overall, I think it's good, and I thought the action was pretty good too. So yeah, I expect that I'll like it.
There is which episode was it? It was either 2 or 3, because there's some creepy monsters in the Witcher games and described in the Witcher books. I've only read a couple of the short stories, but the descriptions of them or the depiction of them in the games are just terrifying. And the show has done a pretty good job over the first 2 seasons of showing some creepy creatures. And there is one that he fights kind of in the basement of this castle, kind of down in this underground area that's made up of like body parts and hands that are trying to come at him. It is not cool, man.
It sounds
not cool.
Sounds like a horror game.
Tim's like, nope.
No, I was like, hard pass. And I was like, how many times does he have to stab it? This is ridiculous.
I was gonna say the only criticism I had from episode 1 was there's some cool fight scenes, but like the monsters that he's fighting, he's like killing them in 2 seconds. I'm like, I'm a gamer. I'm like, I want more of an epic battle. Like, what is that? Like, it's just like boom, boom, boom.
Yeah, what I'm talking about is a little more of a lengthy fight.
It's almost like the cutscenes in Final Fantasy 16, where it's like Clive is running to help somebody in the cutscene, and it's like one slash, and you're like, come on!
That's not what happens.
I just spent 15 minutes on this whole crowd.
Yeah, there's a cool fight scene at the end of episode 1 there where there's a big battle going on, and Geralt isn't present as the stuff hits the fan right at the beginning. So there's a bunch of people fighting and whatever, and then all of a sudden he reappears after taking care of whatever he was doing, and then he just starts just mowing people down. And he even does some combos that were, and maybe the second episode, one of these, there's a combo straight out of the game where he does kind of, it's a couple of like sword clashes, and then he does this thing where he kind of spins around the enemy with his sword. It's a combo that you can do in the game where the sword almost does like a full 360 cut all around their neck. and then he kind of lets him like slash, and they fall down behind him. It's one of those kind of moves, that looks cool in the video game, and they do it in the show. And I'm like, listen, I know they keep saying the show isn't based on the game, but there are so many nods to CDPR's thing. Yeah.
They have to be paying homage to the game in a lot of
big time. Yeah. So overall, I think it's a blast. There's not a whole lot of fantasy shows that are done at this level of quality. All the special effects aren't perfect, but they're pretty good. Like that monster I mentioned, it is a little bit kind of video gamey looking. It doesn't look super realistic, but it's still creepy, and they do a good job with it.
We're not done talking about video gamey graphics in the movie.
Okay, all right, good to know. But yeah, it is super, super violent. Not at all kid friendly. For some reason, that's not clear. Yeah, The Witcher is incredibly violent.
There's so many titties in the first season alone. You have to know this. I mean, you have to know by now.
There's lots of bad things happening everywhere. But I still love Henry Cavill as Geralt. I'm sad that he's only got, I think is it 4 episodes in part 2, or maybe it's another 5. But at the end of July is part 2 of his final season will hit. But according to all these articles that are coming out,
season 4 a shot though.
I think
I still think it'd be worth trying, just to either, even though a lot of us, myself and Kyle at least, are going to go in with our biases about the boring Hemsworth brother.
Yeah,
we're still going to try it because it's Witcher. Like, we're not going to be like,
I'll try it.
Be like, this is terrible already.
Well, they're putting out articles now, which I think is smart marketing for the show, because I don't know how much of this I should really take at face value or how much is like just marketing, but they're saying that they have Liam Hemsworth, in addition to, of course, working out and preparing for the role, that he is playing the games and reading the books to really be like understand Geralt the character more. Like, he's apparently diving into the lore. Like, Henry Cavill's a mega fan.
Yeah, sure. So he can be as frustrated as Henry is.
Maybe.
Clashes when the right
yeah, maybe.
You guys aren't doing this right.
But then
I know
they said there is a way that it's going to make sense for this new version of Geralt. And so if you think about the story of The Witcher, there are like elements of other universes. At the end of Witcher 3, there's some stuff where you're like, oh, there's these portals that show like modern universes and other versions of this universe. So like, there's definitely
so they're gonna do that. Okay. They already run the ending. Well, whatever.
Well, the Witcherverse.
It could be that, but who knows?
Across the Witcherverse. Yeah.
Yes.
They just said there's going to be a way for this new version of Geralt to kind of fit the story. So I would imagine it's going to be multiverse related, but I don't know. I don't know for sure. Part of me wishes they would just introduce Liam's character along with Geralt, and then let Geralt ride off into the sunset somehow, and then let Liam's character be the new Witcher of the Witcher show. Like, I don't know why
part of me wants them to like work it out with Henry and not go through all this nonsense in the first place.
Yeah, me too.
I don't get it. I don't get why they're so stubborn about keeping on writers that, I mean, if you ask the diehard fans on like Reddit or wherever that insist on not respecting the lore, like that's the biggest complaint that you'll hear from diehards, is like they're just crapping all over it, even though I'm enjoying it because I have no relation or tie to any of that stuff, so I'm still enjoying the show. But that's the biggest complaint. Why would you keep those people on and not Henry Cavill? Like, that just doesn't make sense to me.
There are certain things that they really stick to and are really important to them, like in the lore, that I'm like, oh, it's interesting that they decided that was important enough to keep, but then other things that aren't. So like, I'll just give you one quick example, then we can move on from this. But there's a really interesting character. She was at the end of season, she might have been throughout season 2. I can't remember how much she was in it, but she's the elf leader lady with the red hair. Francesca, I think her name is. So I was like, I don't know who this actress is, but she's great. She's got a really cool look, like the green eyes and the red hair. I was like, who is this actress? So I looked her up, and I couldn't find what I thought were pictures of her. I was looking for some redheaded British actress, something, right? And I couldn't find her. And this actress is actually in the show, she's very pale skin with red hair. And in real life, she's got much darker skin. She's like, she's not white, is all I'll say. So the way they put her makeup on to make her look in the show,
they whitewashed her.
Dude, it doesn't look like her at all. Like, I'm telling you, go look at side by side pictures of her, because she's a model. Like, she's a very pretty lady.
You said Francesca?
Yeah, the actress's name is I forget her name now off the top of my head, but anyway, it was just very interesting to see that. And then on the other side, they will recast people to look nothing like how they're described in the book or depicted in the game. So it's just interesting to me.
Yeah, I've seen her before.
Like Trish.
Like Trish, but I thought that actress did a good job with her.
I mean, I don't complain. And Trish is my girl. Like, that's the one from the games that
I like the actress they picked.
I always liked. but I was like disappointed by how she looked in the show. But I was like, it's fine.
Yeah, it's totally fine.
I see what you're saying, Tim. I see what you're saying.
Yeah. Now, to be fair, every character in the show, all of them have a context lens color change. Like
every single one of them. Yeah.
So I think they have an entire budget line just for context, because like Ciri has weird colored eyes, and Yennefer's got like purple eyes. Geralt's got like yellowish eyes sometimes. Like so, it's all over It's all over the place.
It's like it's by the time they go on the red carpet, you're like, who are all these people? Like,
but
are these
people don't look anything like the show?
But you got to know though, like, I love the games, and I have enjoyed all the show, and I'm almost done with this first part of season 3. And I still am super enjoying it. Like, none of this stuff is making me not enjoy it. It's just hard not to notice that stuff sometimes, because we're super nerdy about stuff that we like, and we want to go read behind the scenes and who directed this and who wrote it and who are the actors. And so I was just kind of looking through the actors list, and she was one I couldn't find. I just noticed it. That's all. It doesn't bother me.
That is interesting.
I thought it was interesting that they really wanted her to look a certain way. Anyway. That being said, the cast is great. They're all doing a great job. I think they're all excellent. And I am kind of sad that Henry Cavill's time as Geralt's coming to a close. I think he's a blast in that role. So anyway, it's a good show though. So if you liked the games, go watch it for sure.
I still have to. The reason I haven't chimed in on anything is because I watched one episode of season 2. Like that's where I'm at. I'm so far behind. I just kind of forgot about it.
The other problem is
that was a great episode.
That was a really great episode.
It's an awesome episode. The lore and the depth of characters and kingdoms and
that felt like a video game.
Yeah, it did.
Like side story.
A side quest story.
Yeah. Is that the one at the beginning with the kind of the girl?
And like the pig
in that
guy
mansion or whatever.
Like hog guy.
Yeah. That was messed up, but really good one. That was a good episode. But anyway, it's one of those things that you might have to watch some recaps or like have a little like reference.
Well, especially season 1 not being linear, like you're like, what the hell is happening?
Yeah.
You're gonna have to watch a recap video on that.
Yeah, 2's definitely way better than 1. So
I think so. Well, what about we covered The Witcher? What about Indiana Jones and what I think is probably the worst title of the Indiana Jones movies, The Dial of Destiny? But maybe it's a great title, but it just to me feels a little bit cheesy. But maybe it's not. I guess they're all a little cheesy, but
yeah, it's better than the name of the actual dial.
Oh no! You know what? No, the Crystal Skull was the worst name. This is the second worst.
The Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, which I still have not seen to date, and it's not even out of refusal to. That's what I tell people jokingly is like I refuse to see that movie. It's just
you never made time to do it.
To see it. Yeah, exactly.
They should have called it the Crystal Fridge. That's what they should have called it. They should have called it.
Jeff,
Crystal.
you have watched more movies than anyone I've ever met in my life. The fact that you haven't watched this major,
I know, right?
Huge franchise is shocking to me.
There's a reason behind it. It's because I actually did not grow up with Indiana Jones. I watched the trilogy when I was like in my early 20s for the first time. Mm-hmm. And since then I've watched Raiders. I've watched Raiders probably 6 times total.
Yeah.
In adulthood. And Last Crusade maybe a little like 3 or Temple of Doom's not my favorite, but there's still some fun stuff in it.
I love Temple of Doom.
But Last Crusade and Raiders are tops, like just tops, such good stuff in those movies.
I love Last Crusade.
So I was going in with those expectations, like just an Indiana Jones fun adventure. I'm not going in with this. It better not be like Crystal Skull. Like I'm not going in with any of that.
Sure.
But fortunately, the consensus that I've been hearing online, and Kyle can speak to this at some point when he rejoins us, is that it's better than Crystal Skull, like by a lot. Like it's quite enjoyable. And if you look at audience scores, it'll confirm that, because the audience scores for Crystal Skull were like not the worst. I've seen bad. It's like 50s. It's very mixed. Whereas this is like 90s. Like this is like people love this.
People are having fun with this.
Yeah, people are having, and it's definitely a very fun movie.
This is Spielberg again, right? He did this one?
No, this is the director of Logan. This is James Mangold. He also did.
Is this the first non-Spielberg Indiana Jones movie?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh wow.
And you know what? Kind of happy with the job that he did. I'm not saying that a lot of his staging and the action felt very Spielberg. That's the thing with the Spielberg movies, is that, well, he was kind of forced to make them at a time where the technology wasn't available to do nothing but CG set pieces. And there's a lot of CG set pieces in this movie for sure. So Spielberg had to kind of create a space where he can move the camera around and have like a minecart chase scene, a boat chase scene, and
or the whole tank thing where they're like,
yeah, they're doing these things for real. And then whatever they did in Kingdom of Crystal Skull, I don't know, I didn't watch it. I think they used more CG in that movie, is my understanding. But this one is very CG heavy because it's 2023, and they're gonna lean on that.
Yeah.
There is one sequence involving a car chase where I'm like, this looks practical. This looks insanely practical, and it's quite a long car chase, and it's a very indie Indiana Jones car chase. Like it's so fun. It's probably my favorite sequence of the whole thing. They open on a train sequence where it's young Indiana Jones, and instead of doing what you would do in old Hollywood days, where you just recast for a young version. De-aged him, and that's my criticism, is like the de-aging.
Hey, they should have used the guy who was him in Solo, just as like a little wink.
Oh, that would have been so funny. Like, oh yeah. He still looks like him. He still acts like him.
He kind of looks like him. Yeah.
Yeah. He's still he's like a millennial. He's my age or whatever.
Missed opportunity.
And that would have been around the age that Indy was when in that flashback, because it was like near the end of the war.
Okay.
That actually would have been hilarious.
That would have been great.
That actually would have probably popped the audience in a lot of, like, they would have been like, oh, this is cool.
Because almost everyone who goes to see these has also seen like Solo and the Star Wars movies.
They're both Lucasfilm movies. Yes,
right, exactly.
They totally see those movies. Yes. That's the thing though, is like that, not that it's like a dark cloud hanging over my experience of the movie. It's just something to bring up. Like, it's just it's a not practical element of the movie that kind of bothered me a little bit.
Okay.
I mean, like, he's not that age.
If he looked a certain way, or if he expressed his face a certain way, you could tell it was CG and not very pretty, like, and very unnatural. But that was just like in the beginning of the movie. But unfortunately, it went a little too long. There are some action sequences that, and Kyle and I talked about it after he watched it, where I was like, man, they're still going with this action sequence. I kind of got the point after like 15 minutes of it, but they're still going. Okay. But it's still a really fun time. I think the pros outweigh the cons. Mads Mikkelsen being the villain we all expect him to be, he's really good in this. And the movie kind of ends up being about, like Last Crusade, at least because I rewatched it in advance of this one. It was all about preserving history in a museum and stuff like that, right? And protecting it. And this one is about the obsession with history and when it can cross into being unhealthy for you.
Gotcha.
And so I felt like the third act really drove that home really well. Like, it was to the point of like physical detriment that, like, a lot of key players were so obsessed with the history of the item that they're chasing that they're like threatening their own lives at a certain point. And I'm like, that's interesting. It could have dived in a little more than just at the third act, but.
How did Harrison come across as a leading man at his age now? Like, did it still work?
It totally worked, especially because a lot of the themes had to deal with his own journey as like a spoilers on Crystal Skull, I guess, but as like a father and a husband and stuff, and like his perceived failures in those journeys, and where he is at his life, where he's trying to find something to live for, but he's not like suicidal or anything. He's just struggling at his age. So it actually worked.
Does LaBouffe show up?
No,
because we all know. Well, or I guess Jeff doesn't.
He's got some problems. He's not going to be showing up anywhere in a big budget movie anytime soon.
Yeah, because he was in Crystal Skull, so
he was the son, right?
When did that movie was like 15 years ago now, wasn't it?
2007.
I feel like it was actually quite a while ago.
God, I think you're.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, that's wild, dude. And then South Park made a whole episode about how they literally raped the franchise.
I think now it's almost been as long since Crystal Skull, almost as long as Crystal Skull was from Last Crusade. Like, not quite, but almost, because that was like 17, 18 years, and now it's been like 15 years.
Yeah, it's been a very, very long time.
It's crazy, man.
And that's what makes it even more frustrating that they didn't have the role recast for the flashback, much like they cast young River Phoenix, R.I.P.
In Last Crusade.
Indiana Jones in Last Crusade. Like, you could have recast it and been like, this is the guy we're going to hand the mantle to after this movie.
Right.
And we're going to continue to tell Indiana Jones stories. They could have done it, and they didn't do it.
Well, there's so many potential for, like, here's some untold indie adventures.
Yeah.
Don't know. Like,
they're episodic movies. They're not even. I mean, the characters have journeys, but like
they can still do that.
Yeah, you can tell side stories with Indiana Jones, and nobody would bat an eye. It's that type of story. But yeah, there's a whole spectacle of that some would perceive as a mess in the third act. I enjoyed my time with it, but some people were definitely like, I was kind of put off by the whole. There's a spectacle element at the end, much like there are at all the Indiana Jones movies, but this one kind of goes not as far out as Crystal Skull, but it goes out there. Like, so just prepare yourself for it. That's all I can say. Like, prepare yourself for it to kind of go a little outlandish by the end of it. And I gotta give props to Phoebe Waller-Bridge. I'm pretty biased because I mean, I've watched almost everything she's done. Like, she did the show Fleabag. She starred in it. I don't know if she directed it, but that show is awesome. I've seen it so many times. And she was also in Solo as well. She played the droid.
She was in Solo, that's right.
She was very funny, the sex droid for Lando.
Yeah, so many missed opportunities. They could have brought back lots of
they could have brought back the whole cast. But yeah, it was a above serviceable. Like it was a good time.
So this is Ford's last movie, right? It's his last movie, or?
No. It's his last movie is Indiana Jones, but he said he wanted to keep working.
Okay. So maybe I was thinking of it like that.
Yeah, he said on the press junket, because he was definitely asked that, like, is this time for you to hang it up in general as an actor? And he was like, nah, I'm gonna keep going. I'm not the type of person to just sit there and relax, you know.
Sure.
And I get that. I totally get that. Me and my dad even talked about it because he's close to that age.
Yeah.
And I was like, I know I'm 36. I had to think about it for a second. I know I'm 36. 37? 6? But I can't picture myself just being like, time to relax all day, every day, forever. Like, I can't. And my dad was even like, yeah, I can't do it either. I'm like, oh, okay, so it's the DNA thing. It's got it. Cool.
Now, Derek, I know you dropped and came back in, but now I've got a lot of fan noise coming in, white noise there in the background.
Sounds like a rainstorm.
Yeah.
I've got a lot of connection issues, so it's kind of annoying. That's why I dropped.
Oh, okay.
Let me see if I can fix. Like, everybody's, like, going in and out.
Oh, that's a bummer.
Okay. Oh, yeah, your sound is getting a little better. I can still hear it, son, but whatever. We're just going to press forward here.
Press forward,
July gaming preview. Let's talk about games coming out in this month. We're recording this on July 1st. This is
Tim, I'm still trying to finish games from before.
I know. Here's some good news for you, Dan. There's not a ton of like must-play stuff for everybody. There's probably going to be anywhere from 1 to 5, depending on your taste. For this month. But for the most part, not a super hefty month. That August it'll pick back up, and September is absolutely insane, and October is going to hurt. So,
it's going to hurt.
It's going to hurt the wallet, the time, all of it. So,
it hurts so good.
That's right. All right, so let's talk about stuff coming out, and this is just a few notable releases. We might have missed some things. I know Jeff added a few on there. A few notable releases for this upcoming month. On the 6th, there's the game Scarf, which was a really cool looking PC game that's now coming to consoles on July 6th. It's like a 3D platforming game where you have this bright red scarf that's like flowing behind you. The art style does look really cool.
Oh, that sounds familiar.
From this one, yeah. That just got real loud. The fan noise just got real loud for me. Oh,
it's not adjusting.
Okay. Okay, so we also have The Legend of Heroes Trails into Reverie. It's hitting PC, Switch, and PS4, PS5 on the 7th, on July 7th, which is next Friday. So I know we've talked about how these games are cool and they look interesting, but I don't think any of us really play all of them and keep up with them. But
it's tricky because it's like there's these two different series, right? But they're all connected. So it's like you basically have to play hundreds of hours of like other RPGs, and it's just like
you're lost. You're lost.
Yeah, exactly.
This is where Dan's rule of gotta play them in order does actually make sense.
Makes the most sense.
Yeah.
I think I played like 10 hours of the first one on the Vita. Yeah.
Okay.
And I liked it, but once I fell behind, I was like, I'm not buying these, because I would always, and I still do, I would watch and wait for them to go on sale. And then they just kept releasing a new game before I would buy the old one. I was like, dude, there's like 17 of them. Forget about it.
But I've heard good things about them. Like, it's a good series. That's the thing that's tough. It's like I would get into them, but I just feel so far because I haven't played any of them.
Story-wise, it's good. It has decent gameplay. I think my issue is, like, if you're gonna spend hundreds of hours playing a JRPG, I would say stick with Persona. Like, Persona is more like, it's more AAA. This is like double A tier level of like game design, like graphics, characters.
Yeah, but I mean that's
voice
fine.
acting, all that.
Because like I'll go back and play the old RPGs, you know, like I'm playing Xenogears, literally like a 20-something.
I'm saying like
RPG.
Somebody like you, fine, but I'm saying somebody who like dabbles in a bunch of different types of games. But if you just strictly play JRPGs, then play it. But if you dabble in a bunch of other games, that's not a franchise I would recommend because there's just too many games. Yeah, and there's other games that to me do it better.
And the Persona games, you could jump in on any of those main entries and be fine to jump in. Yeah, yep. That's actually good advice. On the 12th, you got Oxenfree 2 Lost Signals coming to PC, Switch, PS4, PS5. A weird one for Xbox to miss out on. I'm sure it'll come on Xbox later, but
I'll play it on PC anyway. But so I can deck it. But yeah, I love the first game so much.
Yeah, it's really good story on that game.
So like I have some hopes for this one, but everything they've shown us is like, oh, it's identical, and I'm like, damn it.
It looks a lot like it. Yeah. I'm sure it's going to be great, man. I bet it's going to have great dialogue, and I'm sure you're going to love it.
It's like a second chapter. It's like chapter 2. It's continuing, right? So
I think it's different characters, but
it's just been a weird development process because it's taken so long and been pushed back so many times.
I wouldn't even be surprised if they pushed it back again.
It's like 11 days away. That'd be rough if they did that.
They're like, why? Why is this happening?
Yeah, where's our delays when you need it? All right, on the 13th, we've got, I can never say these, Atelier Marie remake, The Alchemist of Salzburg. Did I get it?
That's another franchise that, like, I feel like they release a new game every, like, 3 months.
Yeah. Dude, I agree.
Like here's another sequel.
Yeah.
I don't think these are
the only games you play?
Yeah.
So
this is a remake of the 97 PlayStation 1 game, this particular one.
Yeah.
Wow. I think there's that one girl in our group. I think she plays all these.
Is it Angela?
Yeah. I believe it's Angela. Yeah.
Fighting Machine.
Yeah, Angela. She must be like. I think she's better than all of us at games. She cruises through games. She platinums
like hundreds of platinums. Like
shout out to Angela. She's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Tohu New World. I don't know how to say this. Tohou. The New World.
Not gonna
play it.
So how am I gonna play that game because I don't care about it?
It comes out on PC and Switch on the 13th, and then on the 14th, you've got 2 games. One is Exoprimal, hitting all platforms except the Switch, including Game Pass from Capcom.
Day one. Yep.
That's an interesting one.
I'm still trying to figure out what it is. Like, I understand it's like a co-op, like, shooter against dinosaurs, but is there any like story, or is it just like DNA. Level based?
I don't know.
I don't think there is. I think it's just PvE multiplayer.
Or it's just gonna be super cheesy, like kind of something that's like there to hit and like kind of connect everything together of whatever's happening in the game, but it's not important type of thing. Like I don't know.
Yeah. Is it like Anthem, where you like have a home base and you go out on missions to like take out dinosaurs?
That's what I was wondering, but Anthem at least had a story. I know Anthem gets crapped on a lot. I liked Anthem's story. It was like I played through the whole campaign and beat it, and then I was done with it.
Yeah, same here.
So if this game had that and actually had a decent story, I would be more interested in it, because if you watch like the gameplay, it looks fun. It looks over the top, stupid, but it looks fun.
So maybe that's like the high bar that we could be like, hey, hopefully they have at least an Anthem level story. Chances are pretty good that it's more like what Dan said, where there's barely an explanation to kind of introduce you to why there's dinosaurs in this modern city and go shoot them.
Sure.
Go.
They just go in a world and that's it.
Yeah.
In a world where dinosaurs.
In a multiverse where dinosaurs.
It's only a multiverses now. No universe.
Yeah. On that same day is Jagged Alliance 3 hitting PC, which is not a series I get into, but I know some people who like that one.
A lot of people love that franchise.
The Jagged Alliance game. I think it's a new entry in that franchise too. I don't think it's a remake or anything.
It is.
It's brand. Lisa Definitive Edition is hitting all platforms on the 18th. I'm blanking out on.
They're just releasing a
edition of Lisa.
It's the best version of Lisa.
Okay. Well, maybe I'll date her.
She's had her glow up. She's ready to go public.
And then the sequel will be called Karen, and it's just you bitching at the manager about this, that, and the other.
Listen, I've got the Karen of my dreams already in Final Fantasy XVI. Get out of here! Stop talking to me! Blah blah blah. Go away.
Oh, you talking about Karen? Yeah, Karen. Or Karen? Yeah,
well, I guess
they call her Karen.
Yeah, Karen. Yeah,
yes,
they
call her
alive, aren't you?
Yeah,
what I love
really
is like I keep like buying stuff from her, and she'll be like, "You're ripping me off." I'm like, "I'm giving you money. What are you talking about? You're always ripping me off.
I'm doing you a favor. I'm doing you a favor.
You're lucky to get the prices that low." Or however she talks.
I'm saving your butt. I'm saving your butt, and you're still charging me. So shut up.
Say thank you. At least the blacksmith kind of warms up to you, but damn.
All right, well, if you want to play a strategy RPG, kind of a good old school JRPG tactical strategy game, Cross Tales comes out on July 20th.
Cross Tales.
It does look pretty cool, kind of like Final Fantasy Tactics style, if you like the kind
Cross
of
Tales. Let me see.
Cross Tales.
I do want to mention, I know it's not super low price because it released overpriced, but I think it's called Redemption Reapers, which I bought on PS4, really, is on sale on Steam. And I did go and look at updates and stuff because I don't want to play it on PS4. I'm too good for 1080p. And I started looking. They've been patching the game on Steam, and they have a lot of the more update reviews are more positive. Like one guy I was reading, he was like, too many people are prejudging this game without playing it. If you actually play it after the patches, this is a really good game. And the reason I'm bringing this up, this is the one that's basically the mature Fire Emblem game.
The visuals look great on this one.
I'm not saying pay $30 for it, but the few hours I put on it in the PS4, I actually enjoyed. Like the gameplay was fun, the characters were fun. Everything was good, so I think if you can get that game under 20, buy it. Like keep it on your radar.
Overall reviews were mixed, and now the recent reviews, which I love that Steam does that. Recent ones are mostly positive. So that's a nice shift.
Because they are patching it and they're actively working on. Because they had a lot of issues when it first released.
Yeah, that's a good call out. Redemption Reapers. Yeah, it's on sale from
talk about a redemption
50 down to 30. Very good, Dan. Very good.
Dan, it's like Dragon Age. It's like a strategy RPG.
Then I'm there.
It's got swords and blood.
There you go.
Like Dragon Age.
Swords and blood.
That's where they
are. There areas that are interconnected with small, narrow.
Dragon Age gets the comparison. Swords and blood.
That's like Dragon Age. There's people in it.
And there's dragons.
All right. On that same day as Cross Tales is Might and Magic Clash of Heroes Definitive Edition, which I recommend wholeheartedly if you like RPG/puzzles, those puzzle games. So I think that game is excellent. It's coming to Switch, PS4, and PC, the Definitive Edition. And the new artwork does look pretty cool. But anyway, I do recommend that one if you like puzzle RPGs. Pikmin 4 hits on the 21st. Pikmin! That's another big Nintendo release. I mean, Nintendo is crushing it in 2023. Absolutely crushing it. And more to come. Remnant 2, pour one out for Kyle, but he'll be playing that one on the 25th for sure. He's hyped for that one.
I bought like the expensive version that releases early. I'm very, very excited. I've been watching a lot of videos on it. The first one was loved by a lot of people. This one is taking what they did right in the first one and then fixing everything they did wrong or that people had issues with. It looks really good.
It looks great.
I can't wait. That's my big game for July. That's the one I'm most excited for.
Okay, nice. The PC version of Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart will come out on 7/26 on July 26th.
I didn't own that game, so I went ahead and bought it on PC, even though I beat it on PS5. Pretty excited to... I'm not going to play through it. There's too many games, but I just want to look at it. I just want to put it on like 4K, like max it out. I just want to look at it.
Explode your computer. That's
it's going to melt.
This game is so demanding.
I fully expect this one to come out to complaints of it not being optimized. You know, it's going to be one of those things. But then, so if you're not in a hurry for this one, it's a great one to wait for a few weeks, few months, even let them patch some stuff. And I bet you it's going to run wonderfully and still look amazing.
Fortunately, I think that's the advice you have to give for all PC games right now.
Yeah,
that's the way it is. Yep. But that game is already gorgeous. It's like a must play on PS5 if you like just fun action adventure games. Like it is just.
I think it's still on.
So good.
I think it's still on sale on PS5, or it just recently was on sale.
It is a great showpiece for the PS5, honestly, because it looks amazing. It looks like something you won't see on last gen stuff. It was one of the first games that really did that.
It's not possible to on last gen. It's not possible.
Not possible. And then to close things out, a couple of kind of flash or throwback games, but they're both new. Double Dragon Gaiden: Rise of the Dragons is a new Double Dragon beat 'em up game. Comes out on all platforms. I
didn't even know this was coming out. I pulled it up. It looks awesome.
It looks so fun. Yeah,
not classic so straightforward beat 'em up though. It's there are some mechanics in it that are like have to do with. Man, I have to rewatch the gameplay overview, but they were like introducing things that I was like, oh, this is a little more in depth than previous
combos.
Combo related stuff and going to stores at each level and like getting certain upgrades.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Little minor RPG improvements.
Yeah, there's some light, very, very light RPG stuff that I gathered from.
Well, it reminds me of like River City Girls or Scar Pilgrim because it's like it's not just mashing square. You do kind of do like forward square or like get down forward things like that.
Or the last TMNT that came out, which was like
yeah,
a little more combo,
to me, like
button combo focused.
I love old school beat 'em ups like your Streets of Rage and Double Dragon and stuff like that. Like I love all those games, but I still think Castle Crashers is like the definitive multiplayer beat 'em up game.
This is very fun.
It's just so good. There's a couple more after this one too, but there's Disney Illusion Island will come out on the 28th. Which
honestly, looking at the whole thing, this might be the one for me in July. Like
this looks fun.
Yeah,
it's a good co-op game.
It looks like retro in a way that I'm like, oh my gosh, this might actually.
Yep.
Make me unlock a lot of memories that I kind of stowed away and forgot about as I play it. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, for me, it's mainly getting the Clash of Heroes game on Switch. I'm actually gonna buy a couple copies because you can do like online local multiplayer stuff like that. So, and all my kids love those games. They were on DS too, so we'll get that, and then we'll play Disney Illusion Island for sure. A couple other ones that I had forgotten that Jeff added on. Viewfinder comes out on the 18th, which looks really interesting. That kind of perspective puzzle game.
Yeah, you literally take a picture anywhere. Like of any environment, and then once that Polaroid comes out, you can place it somewhere on the map, and now it's your environment. It's
very, very creative.
Yeah.
Ember Knights comes out on the 18th. I'm blanking on what that.
You mentioned Castle Crashers. It's kind of like that.
Oh yeah. Okay, yeah.
It's like a 4-player beat 'em up type thing, but it's not. I don't think it looks as refined or as fun as Castle Crashers, but that's what it's going for.
And then The Expanse, a new Telltale game, a Telltale series. The Expanse launches on the 27th.
I'll be getting that for sure.
I think they're selling it on CD Key, so I'll probably buy it.
It's probably going to be dirt cheap there on launch day.
Yep. So there you go. There's your month of July. Thankfully, a little quieter because we need a little break before the insanity hits. So I'm good with that, man. I got lots of Final Fantasy 16 ahead of me. I have to get back into Zelda and make progress there, and hopefully I do want to finish that game before stuff like Starfield hits. I need to get back into Zelda in earnest. So yeah, I'm happy.
I was thinking about that too. I was like, really should finish Zelda, but I'm all about Final Fantasy, so that's all I care about right now.
And you're going to be doing some New Game Plus on Final Fantasy probably.
Yeah, no doubt.
So a couple of headlines, some interesting stuff that I thought I'd bring up. Some of it's less interesting than others, but we'll go through some of these, see what you guys think. This is new IP that was announced from IO Interactive. It's the folks who made the Hitman games. And there's now some internal documents. By the way, most of our news are coming from this trial. Like all these documents are being
it's all being made public. Yeah.
And we're getting all this information. A lot of dirt on Microsoft. Not like some on Sony, but like Microsoft stuff's being dug up like crazy. It's really interesting.
Are any of you a part of the Unlock group?
No.
Because if you go in there, like the first like 70 posts are the same crap, just people talking about this. Like that's everybody's just obsessed with this drama.
No, I respect my own sanity.
It's like Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, but the video game version. You know, like everyone's watching this thing play out.
I don't know. Maybe my personality is different, and no, I don't mean it as like I'm better than everybody else. I just don't care about that stuff. Like I don't care about like what did Phil say?
Yeah, I don't care to that level. I'm not gonna know every.
I just want to know if it goes through. That's all.
Yeah, that's it.
Well, I do and I don't care. Like, I think it's funny when you hear some of the snide remarks back.
No, like what you're about ready to do is fine. I'm talking
then sometimes
like posting on it daily.
Yeah.
I'm with you. Yeah, like, but sometimes there's like interesting news or reveals, like, oh, Sony spent that much, like that kind of thing. Like, there's a little bit of those eyebrow raising things.
Like the 220 million. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a lot. So anyway, this new IO Interactive IP could be an Xbox exclusive. The working title is Project Dragon. It's considered an RPG shooter, and it's only listed for PC and Xbox Series X and S. So that's kind of interesting. I don't know. That doesn't mean it's not coming to PlayStation. That doesn't mean it's not just a console, like a timed exclusive. But that'd be a pretty big deal because IO is not owned by. I think currently IO is owned by Embracer Group. Don't they own them?
That wouldn't surprise me.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Square obviously, sold them out. So.
Yeah, that's right.
To whoever.
Both.
No one's batting an eye at Embracer Group, by the way. That's just interesting to me. They own like everything that Xbox and Sony doesn't. But okay.
I know. Why aren't they in this trial too?
Nobody's
because they don't have a console.
You're
if they had a console, they would definitely.
Yeah. Like
Microsoft, that's true because you're controlling the market at that point. If you
look what they're doing. No, look at what they're doing. Yeah. Speaking of which, Microsoft did explore buying a number of different companies, including Square, Enix, Sega, Bungie, IO Interactive, and others. So these were all on their kind of M&A final watch list, which I think is like merger and acquisition watch list.
That sounds right.
But it included, let's see, Bungie was later acquired by PlayStation, as we know, and Zynga, is that how you say that? That's the big mobile game.
Yeah. I think
they eventually merged with Rockstar. They've merged with Rockstar and Take-Two, or with Take-Two.
Take-Two, that's right. Take-Two bought them, and that was like the biggest deal until ZeniMax. That is right?
Currently the biggest merger acquisition of $12.7 billion.
Jesus.
And so this would be $69 billion.
Can you imagine making Did you imagine making like 5% commission off that deal?
Dude,
I know.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
By the way, guys,
I
just retired.
Yeah.
Today.
Yeah.
Retiring at 36.
So other companies on that list that Microsoft was looking into acquiring, I don't know how far down the road they got, was IO Interactive, Hades developer Supergiant Games, Pokemon Go studio Niantic, also Thunderful, Playrix, and Scopely, others I haven't heard of. But yeah, Square Enix came out a little bit after that as one of the ones that was also on this list that they were looking into acquiring.
Was it Square or Sega that was like, oh, we weren't aware of that? Like, they definitely didn't reach out. Yeah, they were like, yeah, they never reached out to us.
Sega's like, we have a good relationship with them.
I just think Xbox, they just like Google search, like, can we buy? And that's what they were like.
It was almost like a kid writing a Christmas list.
How much would it cost?
I bet Sony was on there
at one point too. Square.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like giving your parents a list of stuff. It's gonna total like $7,000.
Yeah, and you're like, this isn't gonna happen. But
like, tell you what, why don't you put a little star by the ones you really want? And so they're like, all right, we'll take this one and this one. The Microsoft CFO said that making Call of Duty exclusive to Xbox has not been discussed as part of this Activision merger and acquisition. So this is what he's saying on the stand. So I'm not saying that it's easy to lie in that position, but it's hard to believe that they didn't at least discuss, would that be a good idea, like console exclusive? They had to at least like, it has
There's
to.
No way they didn't.
Yeah, he's probably talking about like an official, like recorded discussion.
Yeah,
but I'm sure they were like, dude, is there any way we could get away with doing it? Like, where we make a ton of money and then really hurt PlayStation? Yeah, I guarantee they had those.
Yeah, the idea was that, like,
water cooler conversations.
There's the Call of Duty sales. Like, once they got the numbers and really breaking down like where the income comes from and stuff, the PlayStation sales of Call of Duty games were pretty essential to it being worth as much as it's worth. They're like, no, we don't want to cut off those purchases. So I get it. I actually do believe that they never seriously considered making it exclusive anytime soon. And lastly, Stray is coming to Xbox in August. So that's no longer a PlayStation.
That was confirmed on the Annapurna showcase.
And on the other side of things, the
August
Xbox
10th.
exclusive Scorn is coming to PS5. So they're kind of swapping indie. They're swapping indie one name.
Squelch.
Start with the S. Scorn for Stray. We'll swap.
Squelch for Stray. Yeah.
The Squelch.
That's what I call it.
You're welcome for Stray, by the way. You're welcome, guys.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Thanks, buddy.
Cool. You need something on the Xbox.
Thank Uncle Jimmy for us. Thank Uncle Jimmy for us.
I will.
So on more of the stuff that's redacted, I'll put that in quotes, air quotes, redacted. Documents from Sony.
Poorly redacted.
It literally looks like they came to the court and realized we didn't redact these. Does anyone have a marker? And they just grabbed like a dry erase marker. It doesn't look like a real permanent marker, like a Sharpie. It looks like a real.
It's like a black highlighter.
Yeah, because it's marked over, but all it does is kind of highlight what to look at, because you can easily see the number.
Probably a yellow highlighter, and on our screenshots it's black, but in reality it was really yellow.
Yeah. But anyway, it does reveal that the sequels to Last of Us and Horizon both cost over $200 million. I think they even talked about God of War being over $200 million as well. But those two were listed, which, first of all, those don't surprise me at all. It more kind of makes me nod and say, yeah, games are expensive. Like when Halo Infinite cost hundreds of millions, I remember very clearly all the Sony ponies laughing at the ridiculous sums being spent. And I was like,
sure,
you don't think that's what's being spent on your major games? Like listen, it's worth it. Like, I want them to spend that kind of money. I love those games. Like
each AAA experience, like we're talking top tier ones, takes usually about 5 years to develop and fully test and then release. So you're paying people's salaries that easily make 6 figures. So you got to count the salaries plus
it's mostly operational costs for sure.
Yeah, all that stuff, and then you got to also tie in. Well, now you have to test it, plus you have to advertise it. The advertising is hugely expensive.
Big time. Yeah, both of those games, Forbidden West and Last of Us Part 2, took over 5 years, and Forbidden West took over 300 employees, and Last of Us Part 2 is over 200. So, like, these are massive teams, huge budgets, lengthy amount of development time. This is not a surprise to anyone at all. But it just kind of, to me, it levels the playing field a bit. Like, yeah, both of these companies are spending incredible amounts of resources, of course.
Anybody with any know-how, because I mean, there's always just going to be the people that like they'll talk about this, that, and the other, and they'll shit talk and whatever, but they obviously don't know. They don't know the nitty-gritty. Like, to them, they would see this and be like, "Oh, really?" Like, because they just want to talk
with $50,000, right? $50,000.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was like 5 guys, right?
Also, like,
paid one guy a 1-year salary to release this game, right?
It's such a weird flex. Like, the company I like spent less than the company you like on a thing. Like, I don't understand how that's
stuff we flex over is ridiculous.
It's so ridiculous. Like,
the
if you're
whole
listening
thing is
to
a
this
weird
and
flex.
you're someone who flexes over the corporation you support, you should be embarrassed right now.
Like, please stop flexing. Stop flexing.
My SSD goes 0.2 seconds faster than your SSD.
My SSD is way more solid than your SSD, bro. It's like
if people don't know computers and they hear that, they're like, "What are they talking about?" That does not sound good.
My shit's way more solid, bro.
All right. Last thing I'll bring up about this, then we'll move on to other stuff. Jimmy Ryan has some thoughts.
Jimmy, do you need me to get Jimmy?
Jim.
Do you need me to get Jimmy?
Please.
I'll go get Jimmy. Hold on. Hold on.
Oh, you're going to actually get him. He's there. He's at Dan's house.
All right, cool.
Yeah, I've been waiting.
He's on the run. He's on the run.
Oh, there he is. There's Jimmy.
There he is. Thank goodness.
There's Jimmy. Okay, Jimmy's here. He's got his VR on. He can now see the world as it is. And I still like the idea of him sleeping with that on and driving with it on. Like, he's got it on.
That's him shooting rocket launchers. That's his command center.
Yeah. No, I like to think he went to court and took the stand wearing that thing.
I just want you guys to know, while you ask me these questions, I'm literally controlling missiles that are going towards Microsoft's headquarters right now.
So, I see Phil over there. I see him. He's on the toilet. I'm gonna mess
Jim
with him real good.
Like, he's like swinging. Like, what are you trying to do? Phil's right in my face. I'm gonna get it.
I'm gonna fight him.
Poor Jimmy.
So he made.
Don't at me, Silson. Don't at me.
During this video deposition that aired on this past Tuesday, he claims that publishers, and he says this very broadly, publishers are opposed to Xbox Game Pass subscription model. According to him, this is his quote, "I talked to all publishers, and they unanimously do not like Game Pass because it's value destructive." So, but here's the problem with that, is that same thing as being in an argument with someone that you're like, whether it's a friendship or relationship or whatever. And as soon as someone starts saying always, never, every,
Right.
Like as soon as they start using extremes and like those kind of values,
speaking in absolutes.
Thank you. As soon as they start speaking in absolutes, and there's no way, then it's just kind of like, well, this is not a conversation anymore. Now you're just being ridiculous. Now, if he were to say, I've talked to several publishers who they've got their criticisms of Game Pass, and it destroys the value of the products they're putting out. So they don't love it. I would actually believe that because I think there's certainly truth to that for a lot of publishers. But that being said, there's no way that he has talked to all publishers and all of them, because if they all unanimously didn't like it, that wouldn't have the support that it has. It has an.
Well, that's what I was gonna. That was gonna be my counter. Is let's use Capcom as an example. They don't release every game on Game Pass, obviously, but I think they know, and they've been advertising this game a lot. I think they know they don't have a certified hit with Exoprimal, right?
Right.
So, and also this is not a single-player story-based game. So the more players they can get, since this is an online-based game, the better. So in those type of situations, I actually think Capcom would be like, hold on, Jimmy. For this game, we absolutely think
Jimmy, hold on.
That Game Pass is a great option. Plus, you get free advertisement from Microsoft. Because I don't think they pay Microsoft to advertise those games, because Microsoft's benefiting from being able to say they've got a big game from Capcom. So I'm sure there's a deal there. I don't know the money, right? My point is it's cheaper for Capcom up front to give them this game and probably not have to pay as much for advertising, and all those fees are more covered by Microsoft, and they're taking less risk up front. So that's for that game. But again, they're not going to do it for all games. Why? Because there's certain games that are going to be like, no, this is a hit. Resident Evil 4, we don't need your help. We can pay, or with our own money, we can advertise this game. We know we're going to get a gazillion dollars back. So, no, I'm not buying it. I think it's situational. I think it's game by game. Is he talking 10 years from now? Publishers not wanting us to go in this direction of everybody creating a Netflix? Yeah, maybe he is right. Maybe he is right. But he didn't say that. He's talking currently, and I don't buy it. No.
Yeah, I agree. I think what it is an over-exaggeration.
Yes.
And it's just trying to help make their case, but it's like you're in a video deposition. You're not supposed to over-exaggerate. You're supposed to be precise, and that's not very precise. But whatever.
Listen, he can't even see anything. Okay, he just thinks he's.
I have never played a video game.
He's in VR. Life. He's seeing all these people in VR. He's talking to them. All of these people.
It was a video. It was a video meeting, so he clearly was in VR attending that meeting. Yeah. Without a doubt, he was doing that.
Yeah, he was in the metaverse, right? He was in the metaverse through the PlayStation.
You guys know that VR, he wants to make sure they make money off that. Just so you all guys know.
Got it. Thank you. Yeah.
He wants to make sure they make a profit off VR too.
Got it.
He had to tell everybody that.
Although it's not even actually connected, right? So if you look clearly, it's not even connected to anything. So Jimmy is just seeing I don't know what he's seeing at all. I don't know what he's seeing, but it's not connected to anything. So.
Yeah, you hear the stuff that Phil Spencer says, stuff that Jim Ryan says, and it's just kind of like it's equal playing field in my opinion. I hear them both talk, and I'm like, these are both executives. They have different levels of appeal to different people. I totally get it. Like some people like the way one communicates over the other. That's totally subjective. I get it. But both of them are just trying to get a better foothold for their company as their company's leader. And I have no problem with them doing that. On the other hand, it's just fun to observe it and make fun of it. That's all. I don't like one more than the other. I just like making fun of both.
I would say in this situation, and I've said this before to make sure I'm clear, I prefer my PS5 over my Xbox all day. I prefer all the franchises. I prefer it. But if it comes to personalities, I absolutely like Phil Spencer way more than Jimmy. Like, I haven't liked Jimmy since day one. This has nothing to do with this trial. I don't like his personality. I think he's very boring. I liked all the guys PlayStation had before that. They had I think 2 or 3 in a row that were awesome.
Jack Trenton was awesome. He kind of had that gravelly voice.
I even liked Sean Layton. He started off a little but I liked him. But this guy, I've never liked him.
What was that English guy? There was an English guy.
I know who you're talking about. I liked him too.
I can't remember his name.
Kind of skinny dude with like goatee.
Yeah. I think. Yeah. He was all right. I liked him. Yeah.
Well, Dead Cells is going to get a free PS5 upgrade when it is released on June 29th. So if you own a PS4 version, you can get that upgraded. And then, of course, they'll have all the DLC.
It'll literally look the exact same, by the way.
I'm sure I think there's going to be some of the DualSense trigger things and some lighting stuff. But yeah, that's free, though, if you've got the PS4 version.
Can we go with the PlayStation news? Because I got to put Jimmy to bed. It's past his
he's got to go to
take
bed.
off. Yeah.
All right, Jimmy, you can go to bed. Make sure you put your CPAP on.
You know, him and Phil are roommates. They live in an apartment together. They're best buds.
It's like stepbrothers. It's like stepbrothers. They build the bunk
bed. They have a bunk bed,
Did you play my drum set?
Why are you sweating?
Phil would definitely be the one putting his testes on the drum set, right? Phil would be the one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it would definitely be.
One other thing that doesn't have to do with Microsoft or Sony, it's still from the Activision stuff, is Bobby Kotick. He says that he made a bad decision not bringing Call of Duty to the Switch. So after the last Call of Duty games they put out on the Nintendo console they were on Wii U back in 2013. I think that was the last one, was Ghosts. Hit the Wii U.
He said it was a bad decision not to bring them?
Yes, because he said he saw what happened with the Wii U. The last two entries at Call of Duty did not sell well. That system wasn't selling well. And then he saw the Switch prototype and he made the decision, this isn't going to do well either. This doesn't give me the magic feelings that the Wii did. I don't think it's going to be a hit. So they made the decision to just ignore it for this generation. And now he says, looking back, looking at the sales, it's like the third best-selling console ever. He thinks that was a mistake. Like, they could have put out a version of Call of Duty.
I wonder how well Call of Duty would do on a Nintendo platform, though.
I think it would have sold well on all software on Switch is selling well, dude. Like, it's crazy.
Do you know what was a mistake? Giving birth to Bobby Kotick. That was a mistake.
So I actually put at the bottom of my notes. Also, that's probably not the only bad decision Bobby Kotick ever made. I have that on my notes here too. I think that's fair to say. So, speaking of Nintendo, there was a shareholder meeting that, these things are in Japanese, so it can take a while for the transcripts of these meetings to be translated. So I don't think this was like this week. I think it was earlier this month. But there are a bunch of questions during the shareholder meeting with Nintendo about its plans for future hardware, including backwards compatibility. So if you think about like the 3DS and Wii U games purchased through the Nintendo eShop weren't transferable to the Switch. So you kind of lost those, and that was a big, it kind of just feels sad as you watch your digital libraries just fade away.
Yeah, so I had a good amount of Wii U games too.
So yeah, one shareholder in the meeting suggested it would be disheartening for that to happen again, especially after just going through that. So the president, Shintaro Furukawa, he responded because they asked for his thoughts on it. So he said, "We're always this is a very executive answer. We're always considering various things about specifications of future hardware, but at this stage, I would like to refrain from making any specific comments about the future hardware." So he's just staying quiet on any details of the future hardware.
Be excited.
But they did say we have the Nintendo accounts are going to play a key role in transitioning to the new console. So I
think they'll be able to do
good about whatever console it is. Maybe it's just like the Switch, but better. But knowing Nintendo, they're going to kind of catch us off guard with some new form factor or something. I don't know what it's going to be, but I imagine they have to. I think they'll prioritize making Switch games work on it, like the DS to 3DS.
Yeah, it's been like a couple console generations and then handheld generations where people have been complaining. They have to listen at some point. Like, people are tired of buying X game multiple times.
Agreed. Yeah. And speaking of its next console, Nintendo Switch didn't have nearly the issues that PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X, specifically PlayStation 5, had with scalping. And so their goal, they said that's a big part of their conversations as they're getting their next console ready. And so they're addressing it with lots of different things. One of the ways they're doing that is ensuring that they've got production capacity to meet their anticipated demand. So
I don't buy that. Nintendo's never been very good at that.
The Switch wasn't too hard to find, though. Like, it was sold out a lot, but like, I don't remember it being twice the price on eBay.
Well, I don't think the excitement for it was. There was a lot of excitement for it, but I don't think it's going to be as big as the next one is going to be. The Wii U was a failure, so even though Zelda did launch, and I know I was personally like hyped,
me too,
but I don't think it was as big because there was a lot of question marks. I don't think there's going to be as many question marks because I think we're going to basically get Switch 2. I know they're not going to call it that, but I think it's going to be the same thing, just more powerful. I I think there's going to be more excitement, and Nintendo has in the past always been where they have never had enough stuff, so that scalping does happen. Like the cost of getting their stuff can always be very difficult. I would just like to see, and I know PlayStation has been addressing this, I'd really like to see companies in the future where these are huge, like all these things sell really well, right? Let's set up a pre-order system that works. Like set up people's accounts. Those people can only order one account. It's a verified account based off your gaming history. Though they should get access first, because we all know let's say I'm a scalper. I'm going to have my account, but I'm obviously going to create a bunch of fake accounts. Well, if it doesn't have any gaming history or any purchase history, you shouldn't be able.
Yeah, you can't just spin up an account and buy.
Exactly, I shouldn't be able to create an account right away and buy a console.
Yeah, I think a combination of that, like using your history to kind of verify that you exist, or that you've spent enough money with us that we don't care if there's two of you. Like, you know what I mean? Like, all right, you're gonna spend money. That
is tricky for new people though, because I mean, if a person is gonna dive into at this point, PlayStation,
I'm saying early access.
Okay. Yeah, like to ensure that your current audience, like you are a subscriber to Nintendo Switch Online, you're active with us, you've purchased things online for years, and then you get an email, I don't know, X number of days, weeks early to either confirm, or if you missed the window, too bad for you, confirm that you want to pre-order, and then I still think Sony could have done that. I don't know why they didn't, because they had a subscription service. They had plenty of ways they could have done something.
Started doing it where I would get, like, if I signed
up. But even then, it was like a lottery. It wasn't really for everybody. So I didn't like that. But anyway,
I think it's because they were selling them regardless. They're like, well, people are going to buy these, so I mean,
I know. I think so too, and it would take a lot of effort and time and internal costs to do anything additional. But I just think it's a customer-facing.
Yeah, no, it absolutely 100%. Yeah, definitely.
It'd just be nice for it not to be a stressful thing. I know for a lot of us, getting a PS5 and Xbox on day one was extremely stressful, and that's annoying. Like, you should just, the only stress should be, do I have money?
I mean, even Valve had trouble with that with the Steam Deck. Like, there were so many scalpers right out of the gate with that thing. So I was actually fine with wait. I think it took me 5 months after its launch to finally get one.
Like 6 months, but Steam, sure, a Steam Deck, sure, because I already have access to a PC. But if Nintendo announces like some amazing game, same thing with Xbox or PS5 that I want day one. I do have an issue with waiting.
Like Mario Odyssey 2 is going to launch with it, and it's like, well, you better get one or something.
Yeah, because you're not going to be able to buy that on another console, so that's annoying.
Right. So next week we're going to talk about our favorite games up to this point in the year. We're halfway through the year. So speaking of Game of the Year, Atomic Heart, its first expansion has been announced. No, sarcastic. But it comes. It's a story.
It's gonna win our best award for like voice acting and script and all that. Yeah.
I think it's gonna win our most rapey bot award.
Can we make a category for that?
Yeah, there's actually a few to choose from this year. It's kind of weird. No, there's not. I don't know.
At some point, I will go back to that game. Yeah. I will go back to that game. It was decent. I'd like to see if its
first expansion is called Annihilation Instinct. It's the first of 4 planned DLC packs. They also added New Game Plus recently in a free update, getting ready for this DLC. So it's not like the game was released and they're letting it go. Like they're doing their best.
I mean, it was a mid-70s Metacritic. There was a lot of people that liked it, and there was a lot of people that were like, "What is this?" But
I think gameplay wasn't good enough to hook me, and a lot of the character and dialogue stuff was enough to make me go like, I don't want to put up with this.
Maybe a slow year, I put up with it, but this year, if you're not decent to good out the gate, you're gonna lose me. I don't have time.
I agree. Well, reportedly, this is according to Kotaku, so take it with a grain of salt. Assassin's Creed Black Flag is getting a remake from Ubisoft. They're early in development. So I know, it's an interesting one. But there's a team from Ubisoft Singapore, one of the studios that worked on Black Flag. Specifically, they worked on the boating gameplay, reportedly to be heavily involved in modernizing the game.
Could you imagine if this comes out before Skull and Bones?
It will.
this game about boats, about sailing.
Dude, what if they go to show us the next update on Skull and Bones and they pull like a Resident Evil where the logo changes to Assassin's Creed Skull and Bones and it's like the remake of Black Flag.
Skull and Bones is gone then. Skull and Bones is gone.
Dude, I've got a lot of thoughts on that game. We won't talk about that right now.
I laughed at modernizing because this game's already modern. It's still modern.
Yeah,
so
it came out in 20.
This is a weird one to choose of the whole library of Assassin's Creed games.
Or 2012. When did that game?
People really liked it though. Like when this one,
it is the most popular one. So
I think it's 2014.
I'm curious if they'll do like a Resident Evil 4 thing where it's like, yes, it's not as old as Resident Evil 4, but there are still things that they can fix because that game was definitely not perfect. And when you consider like the newer Assassin's Creeds and what they're doing, maybe they modernize it, and as far as maybe they create
a real open world, huge
like a pirate open world RPG game.
Blacker Flags. That's what they're going to call it.
Because to me, that game, that was one of the things I think I struggled with, and I'm going based off memory, so I could be remembering incorrectly, is I didn't feel like I was an assassin. I felt like I was a pirate, and so a lot of the missions they were having me do, I was just like, this doesn't fit.
I actually felt like it was more split personality, because when you're on land, it was very assassin-y with little towns and climbing around and jumping down and assassinating.
I was a pirate.
I kind of wanted to just make a pirate game. Like, don't make. I want to like charge the shore and like raid villages, kind of like Valhalla lets you do as a Viking. Like
Valhalla, yeah.
I think there was a little bit of push and pull back and forth between the two, because it wasn't as bad as Valhalla. Valhalla really doesn't feel like an Assassin's Creed game for a lot of the time, but I remember Black Flag definitely having moments where you'd go to like a ruin or something, and it's like, oh, here's the Assassin's Creed.
Yeah, and I'm like,
stuff like.
Ed doesn't care. He doesn't care, man.
You know, people like to crap on AC3, but I loved that setting of like old America.
Perfect setting. Amazing trailers building up to release. It was
terrible characters.
The characters weren't great, but I thought the story was interesting. Not amazing.
I enjoyed it.
But I liked the incorporation of like historical characters that we're very familiar with.
Had a couple of good. So I'm a big
George
Assassin's
Washington.
Creed
Never
fan.
heard of him.
But
who dat?
One of the reasons I like the Assassin's Creed franchise is almost every game, and they're not as good at it now. Every game, especially the early ones, always had great twists. And 3 had like a mid twist, and I think that if I remember correctly,
modern
had
day
a twist. And it had like an in twist too.
Yep.
They did good.
Agreed. All right, so Daedalic is ending all internal development. You guys might be wondering why. Well, that's because they released Lord of the Rings Gollum, and it was disastrous. And so they will only be publishing, licensing, marketing going forwards. They're no longer going to be.
Did they apologize for this move as well?
I think they did release like one of those notes app screenshot things, like with the official, whatever logo.
It was like, don't worry, we're not making stuff anymore. We'll just promote.
We're very sorry about that.
We're sorry. They're like BP Oil after this.
That is one game that I did not have to watch more than 2 seconds of ago. I don't understand why people are talking about this game. This is terrible.
I have literally only seen, after its release, I've only seen footage of it on TikToks from streamers clipping. They're basically taking clips from their streams, putting it on TikTok of them dying for no reason in that game, and it's. So every single time, the streamer in particular that I would find, he would every time he would die laughing. Like he'd just be like, "What?" Like it just makes no sense.
Yeah, what a sad use of that awesome. What a sad use of that awesome IP.
It makes no sense.
Yeah. It appears that The Sims 5 will be free to play based on a job listing for marketplace and monetization that they're looking for. So that's ouch. Good luck with that, EA.
That's gonna be a little scary.
Yeah. So we'll see about that. I don't know. I enjoyed my time with Sims 2 way back in the day. I played a little bit of Sims 3.
That's what I played too. Oh my god.
A little bit of Sims 3, but I was like,
I'm done making a fake family.
Yeah, done with the fake families.
My wife and I we played a little
too much.
We played Sims 4, and it's fine. The controls are a little tricky on console because that's what we were playing on. Okay. But it was fun. But like there's so much DLC. So much DLC. So that's probably why they're leaning.
They want to keep the game alive like forever. Is probably what they're gonna do.
Yeah.
They probably won't even call it Sims 5. They'll probably call it Sims something, and it'll go on forever.
Before we talk about the Annapurna showcase, Red Dead Redemption has been rated in Korea. So this game, of course, is 13 years old now. Now, you might be thinking like, oh, they're just gonna re-release it or release it there. There's already ratings for the main game, for the Undead Nightmare Collection, and the Game of the Year edition. So this is a new rating that showed up in Korea for Red Dead Redemption. And of course, we know that there's been all kinds of rumors, don't know how much validity there is to them, about like them remaking, remastering, remaking these games. We don't really know what Rockstar's up to outside of Grand Theft Auto 6. Of course, you had that leak of some of the early.
Yeah, and they're never going to tell us anything again until like a week before it comes out. So.
Yeah, and I don't blame them, man.
Honestly, I would love that. I would love that.
I would love that too, and just like discover it as you playing it. That'd be amazing.
I find it hard to believe that all they're doing is Grand Theft Auto Online and GTA 6. I gotta believe that a company that big has some team working on something like this.
They gotta be. Actually, you know what? They hired somebody else for the GTA trilogy remaster, so I could imagine them either doing a small team or outsourcing again to another
something like party this, maybe
for a re-release or remaster of this. And normally, whenever we have a headline that's like, "Hey, they rated something in Korea," or Brazil's another one.
Yep.
Weeks later, we find out, hey, there's a release coming soon. Like, it's in the States, so that's entirely. Yeah,
you're right, because this specific game rating board in South Korea, they have a history of revealing titles before their official announcement.
Yeah, well,
it's really consistent. Yeah, it's like if it's been rated in Korea, there's something happening. Now, it never was released on PC, the first one, so it could be like a PC version. Like,
true.
Who knows? But I think something Red Dead Redemption 1 related is going to be happening. Maybe not this year, but something in the near future.
That wouldn't surprise me. You know what? This game is still, the second one, is still massive on TikTok. I scroll through my feed. Maybe it's just because of the way I've curated my feed. But still, videos from Red Dead 2 and the physics and the things you can do with NPCs is still like getting thousands of likes because it's so next level funny and thought out. Like, it's insane to the degree to which they thought every interaction out in that game and that massive open world.
Yeah, when you finish the second game, my thought as I wrapped up that game, and then there's kind of like a lengthy epilogue, but that as things wrap up, I remember thinking like, I just want to play, because the second game is a prequel to the first game's story, and I kind of just wanted to continue on the John Marston story in the first game, but I wanted it to look and play like this one.
I think it's 4K on Xbox.
The second one is?
The first one.
Oh, really? I didn't know that they had touched it up.
I think they did an update. You'd have to Google it.
Nice.
None of us have access to that, though.
No, absolutely not.
We don't do the internet here at my.
If I'm wrong, don't at me.
That. A couple things I wanted to highlight, and then Jeff, if you want to highlight anything from the Annapurna thing, the things that jumped out to me were that Cocoon, the new game from Inside and Limbo Dev, it's coming out on Game Pass on September 29th, and on everything, but it'll be on Game Pass as well on September 29th. That's a pretty big deal. And then this Blade Runner game was the other big announcement, I thought. Right? Yeah. This is their first internally developed game, which is interesting, because Annapurna is a publisher, typically.
Mm-hmm. They were always like scouting for other devs to be like, what's the most interesting looking thing that people are making like 12 minutes. Yeah. Like they're just like, give me it. I'll put my name on it and publish it. We'll make money together. You know? Yeah. That incestuous ride. Oh my God.
Whereas the Devolver takes like the craziest nightmare fever dream ideas and they'll publish that. Annapurna takes a lot of the more indie, thoughtful, like, I don't know, sometimes sadder games. Yeah, definitely. Typically.
And I think that Blade Runner is going to be Blade Runner. I said it like it was one word. Blade Runner.
Blade Runner.
Blade Runner.
It was like someone's last name.
Mr. Blade Runner.
Phil Blade Runner.
Hey, Blade Runner, get over here.
Blade Runner. 2033 Labyrinth is the name of it. I think that's going to be more aligned with the indie games that they have been producing, because they haven't shown any gameplay, obviously, but the verbiage that they're using in the trailer leads me to believe that you are a detective who's looking through that. There's a scene with Ryan Gosling looking through archive footage, and you can like manipulate the environment and stuff like that in the footage, and you're looking through time and you're looking at different environments and stuff like that. I think it's going to be that type of game where it's just analyzing evidence and trying to find who did a crime, basically. So that might be a letdown for some people, but to me, because it's in the world of Blade Runner, I'll be interested in that. Yeah.
The most Blade Runner looking game I'm excited about is Replaced.
Red Dead is 4K. I'm talking about the original 4K on Xbox One X and Series X.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that is crazy.
Because I went back and played it and beat it, and I remember I was like, I'm pretty sure it was 4K.
Wow.
Nice.
Good job, Rockstar.
Yeah.
This looks awesome.
I think that another interesting aspect of the Blade Runner thing that leads me to believe maybe there's more to the gameplay is they hired a lead technical artist, from What Remains of Edith Finch, and the game director of Solar Ash. So, like, why would you hire these people?
Yeah.
That made these more interactive gaming experiences more stimulating gaming experiences, just to have you look at footage and scroll through and fast forward like you're doing BDs from Cyberpunk. Like, why would you do that? You know, I don't know. I'm interested to see more.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else from the Annapurna thing that you think is worth highlighting? Because we talked about Stray already.
Thirsty Suitors comes out on the 2nd of November. That game looks fun.
Suitors.
Yeah, it's like an RPG fighting dating game or whatever. It looks really silly. Really silly.
I
love the art
fighting
style.
when I'm dating in real life. Don't need us. Yeah, I don't need a simulator.
They showed the opening trailer of the showcase was from the Sayonara Wild Hearts developer. It was called Lorelei and the Laser Eyes, and it looks super weird and sci-fi-ish, where it's like a puzzle game, and you're like stuck in a maze trying to solve a murder. It's very weird, and they had like weird cryptic voiceovers and stuff. Again, another one we need to see way more of.
There's a game where a kid is stuck in a T-pose that looks like this.
It's just called To a T. That's the name of the game, and a dude is stuck in a T-pose like for the entire game. It's so ridiculous.
Yeah, like that to me is on the same level as that really physics-based one that Devolver's making with First Steps, where the guy
falling down.
Oh my god! Where he like knocks over the rocks, and they have an argument about it for like 2 minutes.
I have a very New Zealand-ish argument about it. That's what it felt like.
It was the flight of the Conchords conversation.
Yeah, that's what it. Yeah, it's like Taika Waititi type stuff.
All right,
yeah, but nothing else. I mean, there was a lot of devs talking about how great they are and stuff, and I'm like, you guys need to calm down. Yeah, I mean,
all right, y'all need to relax.
My thoughts to wrap up the show. I mean, you guys might have some quick hits. I don't have any. I've already talked about my quick hits were all new stuff and or playing a lot of Final Fantasy XVI, which we'll talk about here in a second. If you've got something real quick, I'll just open it up for anybody who wants to highlight it, and then we'll close it out with more Final Fantasy 16.
FIFA 16.
Yeah.
The only thing I would say, because I talked about last week all the Final Fantasy games I beat, I also jumped into Yuffie's DLC for Final Fantasy VII. So she's a great ninja. Let me tell you,
she's a great ninja.
She's really, really stealthy. So far though, like, man, I don't know. I'm freaking turning into a Final Fantasy fanboy. Like,
goddamn, I love.
It's so good. Like, I'm not far in, but like the combat is so good. She, character-wise, for my personality, she's a bit what I would call annoying. I don't know if you've ever heard of that.
Because she talks. Yeah.
Yeah, because she's female and talks. But I think it's the over-top, like, hey guys,
she's super enthusiastic. She's super enthusiastic.
You know, she's overcompensating because of what her life is involving.
She's been through some
where
stuff.
She's from. Yeah, she's been through some.
She like the way she reacts to things. Like, one person said something to her and she got like all tough, and I'm like, chill, relax. They didn't say anything major. But again, I'm early on. But the combat is what I liked a lot. Like, I already loved my second playthrough of Final Fantasy VII, but hers feels even more action-y. So going from Final Fantasy 16 into this, it's like, yeah, I can see it. I can feel it. Like, it's even more action. It still has all the
it's the combo stuff, right?
Yeah.
Her buddy there. And that's why I'm excited for Rebirth, because, like, the combo stuff, like, the two people combining into, like, holy shit.
Dude, Rebirth is, like my hype list is now, like, it was probably like a 7 before, but after replaying part 1, it's definitely 10 out of 10. Like, I cannot wait I'm going to be watching every video, breaking everything down. But anyways, I just wanted to say, I think after I get through 16, I'm obviously going to jump straight into New Game Plus, but this is going to be that side game that I keep going to, and it's not that long. I'm not going to try to just mainline it, but it sounds like if you just mainline it, it's like a 4-hour DLC. So it's I should be able
it's not so long. Nice. I do like that I do like that they did choose like, and it makes total sense that it would be Yuffie and not like Vincent or whatever. But like, yeah, I never cared about Yuffie back in the day. Like I never had her in my party. I didn't give two craps about her like at all. And this DLC, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, no, I care about Yuffie now. Like I'm like, oh, okay. I totally, yeah. And by the time you finish it, like that adds a little context too as to why.
Yeah, as I play through it and I'll update the show, I'm curious because I really liked Part 1's story. I've played about half of Final Fantasy VII, the original.
Yeah.
So all of Part 1 is obviously covered, and Part 1 obviously deviates and adds on and all that stuff. So replaying it and kind of paying attention more to the story, I liked. Like I was blown away by that. So I'm actually very interested in what this DLC story will add on, and how it kind of, because it came out after the game release. So I'm wondering how it connects to Part 2. So it'll all be new for me, is what I'm saying. So I'll update the show on like my thoughts on it, if it feels like just a tacked on DLC, or if I'm like, nope, this adds on to it. Absolutely love it. Even hypes me more for Part 2.
Nice. All right. Anybody else with quick hits before we go into?
I started watching The Bear. I know I mentioned that in the in our chat. The Bear.
You put hands on Bear. I need hands. I need hands on Bear. I need the hands on the Bear.
Corner.
Behind, coming behind.
Yeah, just what a great show of like, yeah, it's people just in a place, a restaurant or whatever you want to call it, but it's like it's just really just good human stories, and everybody's like got their thing going on, and they're all bouncing off of each other very naturally, and it is interesting. Bear coming back from his situation and learning what they do show, and I'm sure they show more as it goes along too, like his past and like where he came from.
Yep.
I mean, they show his entire family in the second season. It's awesome.
Yeah. But yeah, his cousin, that's basically just Derek, right? That's Chicago Derek, right? It's basically just Chicago Derek, right? I mean,
so are you trying to get me to watch the show?
Honestly, watch the show, you're gonna be like, dude, you're right.
Hey, in season 2, he has a really funny line about not being a beta. So
yeah. The second I heard that, I was like, fuck, damn it. So you kidding me? Yeah. I was like, you kidding me right now?
The way he roasts trolls, like I keep going back to that Snyder
the Snyder thing, yeah.
Oh my god, dude! I can't believe they wrote that in the show.
I think if you liked, based on what you were saying about things like Succession, I'm not saying it's like that, just like the family interaction and the harshness of some of the arguments and the speed of the dialogue. I think there's some comparisons to stuff like that.
There is. It's even more hectic than Succession because they're trapping it into a half an hour instead of an hour. You know what I mean? So they're trying to run a restaurant at the same time. Yeah. So it's a very stressful environment. It definitely captures at least my memories of being in a restaurant in a kitchen and stuff.
Like also the guy who created it, he keeps using a song that I remember from when I was in college. That it was by The Used. No, it's not The Used. It's shoot, I'm blanking. But it's the one that has the guitar that goes. No, I'm gonna.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, where it's like building up, like something's. Yeah.
So I had a buddy in college named Brett, and we were driving to spring break, and he throws this album on. I think The Used is the wrong band name, but it was a band. It's not The Used, but anyway, he puts that song, and like it just has this long build up where he's kind of talking. It's not a rap, but it's not a sing. It's like talking.
It almost has like Rage Against the Machine vibe.
And
so it's not Rage.
It's not Rage. And then all of a sudden it's Can I Scream? And just kind of kicks in and just starts screaming. And I was just like, dude, this is awesome.
Dude, actually, you know what? I will give a shout out to the show for every song that's chosen to be in the show. Like I feel like whoever is curating, and I have a feeling the creator has a lot to do with it, because there's an episode, I think it's episode 6 or 7, where it's either Sydney or Carmi are like going on a train home, and they have a John Mayer song playing over it called "Last Train Home," and I'm like, I love the show, man.
It's Refused.
Put a John Mayer song in it. I love that
band. It's the band called Refused, and I remember Refused. Yeah. But I remember watching a music video of it, and the guy does like this crazy backflip off one of the speakers on the stage as the music kicks in. Like they're just a crazy band.
That sounds about right. Yeah,
that song is a running theme throughout first and second season.
Speaking of, by the way, where are you in the show, Dan? Like,
So I am on to season 2, I think.
Okay, so you're past the episode that's like all single take, and you might not have even caught it when you watch the episode.
Is that where like everything starts hitting the fan, like shit's hitting the
Chef, where receipts
but the camera doesn't cut, it just keeps going to the next person.
Yeah,
I didn't actually notice, and
you wouldn't even cut. Yeah, somebody had to tell me that, and I was like, no fucking way. Like, yeah,
second season has like a 20-minute segment, it's maybe 15-minute of that same thing.
Yeah, it's in the finale where it's going in and out of the.
Oh, it's so good
in the front of house. Yeah, it's so.
Good. Can you imagine the coordination it takes to get that done?
How did they do this?
Oh. So much. How did they do it?
But speaking of music from like my youth and stuff, I watched the movie Joyride in the theater, which comes out this coming Friday at the time this airs. It's a brand new movie. It's like a mostly Asian cast, and it's very R-rated road comedy. Very, very, very funny. And
you don't get a lot of those anymore. That was a big thing for like in the early 2000s.
That's the thing.
Right?
You have this year. You have No Hard Feelings, which kind of the laughs kind of peter out in that one. This one, I feel like I was laughing almost the entire movie. Like it was just so freaking funny. But the movie starts with Dave Matthews, and I was like, oh my god, this is a millennial movie. Like I immediately knew this was for me. Like because it starts with he wakes up in the morning, that song. And it was to emphasize that they're being raised in a white neighborhood. It's literally called White Hills, and they're the only 2 Asian people in that neighborhood and stuff. So that's why they became best friends. But yeah, the one-liners are just great. This is one of those movies. Like I think the last R-rated comedy that I laughed this hard at was, I think it might have been like Good Boys, the one where it's like middle schoolers being R-rated and cussing and stuff like that. Seth Rogen produced it and stuff. Maybe Booksmart too. Those were the same year. But that was the last time I laughed that hard in an R-rated comedy, and I was like, I got to watch that again and again. This is the same thing.
For me, it's probably been since like the second Deadpool. Last time I laughed consistently, start to finish, in a rated R.
2018. Yeah. So like, it's been a while since we've had a good, like consistent laugh R-rated comedy. This one's so funny. Yeah. This one, I hope this one is as marketed annoyingly to the level that Crazy Rich Asians was, because I remember the marketing for that, and then I saw the movie and I was like, the movie's fine. Can people shut the fuck up? Like, shut up.
It's a pretty normal like rom-com.
Yeah,
when it's all
so
said
basic. But this one is like so next level funny, with some jokes that are so incredibly inappropriate. It needs to be promoted just as heavily to me. Yeah. Like it's a marquee movie for me.
Nice.
I'm glad it lived up to my hype. I was going in with a lot of hype because those trailers were very funny. And then another new movie I just came out on Netflix called Nimona. And this one has been in the works for like 10 years. It was at Disney for most of it. And then Disney said, hey, you should cool it with the gay stuff in the movie. And the creators were like, nah. So when Disney... Disney was like, okay, well, then we're done here. And then Annapurna... good old Annapurna picked up the movie, and they finished the movie. And the gay thing that they were talking about is a man saying to another man, "I love you." That's it. Which is
funny because like Disney now would like pay so much extra money for that kind of thing.
Right?
Now.
Yeah. They're actually very
insane.
Yeah.
I was like expecting like a Brokeback Mountain tent scene, and instead it's just a dude saying to another dude, "I love you." Like
that must have been Disney from like 8+ years ago.
It was it was when they acquired Fox. And they were like, we don't have room for all these movies, so we got to start making cuts. And then they were like, hey, you guys are too gay, so let's get rid of this.
Oh my gosh.
Well, somebody there was like out of control, like doing something. Like
it's great. By the way, it's great. The whole story is that there's a shape-shifting girl voiced by Chloe Grace Moretz who she would be perceived in society as a monster. It's like a fantasy movie, as a monster, and she's befriending and helping this knight who's being accused of killing the queen. So he had to go on the run, and they run into each other, and she's trying to help him navigate through that and find who the real perpetrator was. And the animation is just gorgeous. The story beats that it hits are just like, I don't know, man. It just struck a chord for me, and. The voice acting is next level. I think Riz Ahmed voices the knight in it. So you'll recognize some voices in it for sure.
Nice.
Yeah, the animation is just so good. I was just really floored by this. Like this movie, like I saw Elemental a couple weeks ago and I was just like kind of meh on it. Elemental. Yeah. And this one, I was like, this is way better than Elemental. Like, I mean, in terms of animated movies that just came out, like this one's way better for me. And last thing I want to mention, and I talked about the show before, is an Apple show called Silo. because Kyle and I talked about it when it first came out. First 3 episodes.
Familiar,
yeah.
And I mean, it's just about like outside life has become toxic. You're not allowed to go outside anymore, or else you like die within seconds. So it's about living life in these silos, and this is like generations after the silos have been created. So they're still like discovering stuff about the silos that they didn't even know about, because they've been there for so long. They've been there as long as they can remember. So anyway, the season just wrapped up, and it had this amazing cliffhanger that I just had to bring the show up again this week. Like I was like, holy crap, they've stuck the landing, and I think they got renewed already.
I love when a show sticks the landing.
Dude, it was such a good ending. I was like, no way. Yeah, I'm so stoked for more. It's got Rebecca Ferguson as the lead. She's from
she's great.
More famously from the latest Mission Impossible movies.
So hyped for that one.
Squeeze. I got the IMAX ticket bought. I'm so stoked for Dead Reckoning.
Seeing Monday the 10th. Oh,
nice.
Wait. Whatever.
It's a Wednesday release, so I'm seeing it on Tuesday.
I'm seeing it on Monday, so whatever that day is.
Yeah, I'm going on Tuesday with a buddy of mine to IMAX as well.
I tried.
Looking forward to that.
Did you guys look at Oppenheimer showtimes for IMAX? Because it was all gone near me, like all of it for the first weekend.
I don't actually know.
Really?
Yeah.
You don't know any of these movies?
No. I'm saying Oppenheimer, however you say it. Like I just suddenly started seeing people talking about it. Like I haven't seen a trailer of it.
It's been everywhere.
Nolan.
Yeah, I know it's Nolan. Which obviously, when you say Nolan, it's like,
my favorite actor too.
Cillian Murphy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Cillian Murphy. He's fantastic.
Peaky Blinders, but like
hopefully he'll just be doing this the whole time.
Yeah, he's just gonna be smoking the whole time and going, yeah, clearing his throat. He does that a lot in the show. What's funny to me is like this whole discourse, not really discourse, it's very light discourse, but this whole there were people that, and I don't mean Tim, we've talked about this before, how it's like this doesn't really feel like it needs to be a theatrical experience and stuff like that. And I've heard that a lot, and I've even felt it personally. Like, this is just a drama biopic. What's the big deal? But every IMAX showing the first weekend near me is sold out. Like, I literally cannot go see it in IMAX. So apparently Nolan fans did not get the word. So this is too boring.
Yeah, it's Nolan.
I'm checking it now, and I think it might just be regional because pretty much every showing, because it comes out on the 20th, right? Is the first showtime.
Yeah, it comes out the same day as Barbie too, which is counter-programming.
Yeah, 20th. There's tons of IMAX seats on all the showings. The 21st. So on the 21st, there's not one ticket sold yet for the afternoon IMAX.
I'm gonna go to Colorado and I'm gonna go see Oppenheimer in IMAX.
Yeah. Yeah, there's lots of. I think it's just
because we have one in like a 20-something mile radius, probably.
But when you actually look at like the imagery of this movie, of like him standing in front of the atomic bomb with all the fiery, like you look at that, and if you don't actually even know, you're just like, oh yeah, Nolan, sure, I'll go see that. Like it just.
I still got a ticket that was like XD, and if you have a Cinemark near you, you know that's a bigger than usual screen, and they use a different kind of laser technology, and the sound is way better. So I'm still going to see it on a bigger screen. It's just, I'm a little bummed that I was like, damn, I wanted to see an IMAX day one. Whatever, it's fine. First world problems. Definition of.
Yeah. All right, cool. Well, let's wrap things up with any updated thoughts. Of course, we'll keep them as spoiler-free as we can, mostly for my sake. This is selfish, because I am on Final Fantasy XVI. I'm just now up to level 22, is the level that I hit earlier today. I played it for a little bit this morning. Before our day's been very full, but I had a little time this morning before we had to head out. So yeah, I'm at level 22, still early in the story. I think I'm doing a bunch of side missions, so I'm still on that same, like, I think it's the 24th of the main missions, so it's about the 1/3 mark-ish of that game. So I'm still relatively early, but loving it so far. None of my opinions have changed on it. I've played bits and pieces. I probably had a total of 6 hours maybe since we last talked, maybe 7 with the game since last we talked. So I've advanced a little bit, not a ton, but my opinion is still what it was before. This is an amazing character action game. The only thing I want to say about like the fans of it, I know people kind of roll their eyes at the idea of fans not liking the direction of Final Fantasy or whatever. I actually totally empathize with them. I'm not saying I agree with them. Like, I love the direction this went. I think it fits. I'm enjoying it. I have no criticisms, but I do empathize with someone who's like, not even turn-based, but they're like, I want to control a party. I want a deep RPG. I want deep progression, and I want this to be an RPG game, and it is not that. I don't think that's an unfair criticism. I think like if that's what you wanted, this is not what that is. So like I empathize with longtime fans. This is the first Final Fantasy game that I can think of that stripped away almost all the deep RPG things. Not all of them. There's still some good stuff there, but most of them. So,
I don't know how the game ends, and I was gonna make a post about this, and I was like, well, wait until you know how the game ends. But I'm just gonna say it because you were talking about it now. What I'm hoping, if the game ends the way I hope it ends, is that they'll do an actual trilogy of this game. Like they did it with Final Fantasy 13, which I like 13. I know I didn't end up beating it. I've talked about it on this podcast before. I played the hell out of it, and I got stuck on a stupid boss late game. And that's one of my, like, if you have those, like, hey, what's a game that you really, really wish that, like, it bothers you haven't beaten? Final Fantasy 13's top 5.
Octopath Traveler 2 is for me. That's it.
I beat it. Dan, I beat Octopath Traveler 2.
I did not mean to rehash that.
You definitely didn't, but that's fine.
But anyways, my point is that this is a game that I would really like a trilogy, and the reason I'm saying that after what Tim just said is I agree with him. Like, I empathize as well. I absolutely love this game.
Yeah.
But I would love it if, like, for most of the game, you always have 2 or 3 people with you, or you at least have your dog. But you usually have almost what feels like a party with you. I would love it if they would just, you know, even if you can't switch characters like you can in Final Fantasy VII Part 1, if you can just, like, manage them, like what equipment they're wearing, what they do in the party, like maybe have like a system set up like in Final Fantasy 12. What's his face was talking about the Gambit system where it's just like where you just tell them how they act in the fight, and then they do their thing, but they're still in your party. You still manage them, I guess.
Well, what's interesting that you're saying that Rebirth is supposedly going to have something that's like a spiritual successor of that. Like, it seems like from the little things that they've said, which is actually going to be really interesting and cool, I think.
While still being able to switch characters, because it looked like you could control other characters in that trailer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. It's just when you're like, if you're Cloud, then what are the other two doing? You can. I think they're going to have more of like that kind of breakdown of being more advanced of what they do, which is really cool because the Gambit system is actually pretty great.
So I wanted to bring that up just because it's been on my mind, because I feel like when someone brings it up and says this game is bad because of that, I think that's a dumb opinion. You can't say that the game that's not trying to do what you want it to do is bad. Like I don't have a problem with them saying I wish
I have an issue
the mainline Final Fantasy did what I remember all the previous ones doing. So that's all I wanted to bring up. Yeah. And I'm loving the direction it's going. I don't personally think it's a lesser experience because of that. I just think it's worthwhile to at least highlight it's okay for people to wish it was.
I don't like the people that only played the demo, like me. So I've said this on the podcast, and that were like, well, this feels like press square to win. And I am seeing reviews, so I'm not making this up. This isn't like me dramatizing it. Seeing tons of 0 reviews on Metacritic, and all they're saying is this is press square to win.
All they did was a demo then.
And that's stupid. Like the demo, obviously it's the job of the demo to hook people. I've listened to David Jaffe enough. It's the developer's problem. They need to hook you. Yes, but we also need to not, like, we have to acknowledge that gamers, well, people in general, but gamers are pretty entitled. And if they're not getting what they want right away and quitting, that's kind of on them as well. Like, it's your job to create what you think is good. Yes, you shouldn't wait 40 hours in to be like, hey, we have, you can upgrade your way of fighting or anything. No, you want to be like decent, but I don't think you should judge a game based off. I think the demo is literally an hour and a half long. And like I said, I had my concerns, but I was like, let me just play the game. And now I've played the game, and even compared to last week. So last week I think I was about 10 hours, maybe 15 hours in when we did the show, maybe less. I don't know. I don't remember. And I had some criticisms, and my big thing was, while I'm not a hashtag this is not my Final Fantasy person, I definitely felt it in the first 10 hours. I don't know if anybody else felt this, where I was like, okay, I really like this game, but I don't feel like I'm playing Final Fantasy, and this is bothering me for some reason, right? But as I kept playing the game and falling more and more in love with it, so here's where I'm at now. I'll give my update. I am at the last 2 missions. So I have seen a lot of the story. I have experienced.
You fought this guy?
Yes.
Hey, see, I didn't even want to see that. I didn't want to see that, Jeff.
Yeah, Jeff. I have experienced a lot of this game, so that's why I said I hope we get a trilogy unless Clive dies, and then I'm like, okay.
I do want to just throw out there that Yoshida has said there is a beginning, middle, and end. Like maybe there would be DLC, but it sounds like the way he said that was DLC.
Like I was on the Reddit for this game. And they were talking about meeting Yoshida and asking if there was going to be DLC, and he kept winking and giving thumbs up and stuff.
Right.
Like that. So
well, here's what I'm thinking. First of all, I want DLC, but if this game is hugely successful, they might go. But we have enough of a world here. We have enough good characters that we could make a part 2, a part 3. So that's what I was going to compliment on this game. So again. My initial impressions is that this game fell into an 8.5 to 9 range for me. Now, I'm going to be a little dramatic. I'm going to acknowledge I'm being dramatic. This is easily a 10 for me, and we're talking top 5 all time of all games, in my opinion. Wow. I'm not saying it does anything different or better than everybody else. I'm saying I love the characters, the combat, the world. It's literally Final Fantasy Dragon Age. So why wouldn't I love it? I'm just kidding. Just kidding. But I do.
I love nothing like a Dragon Age game, though. Like not even a bit.
Tim, it's got dragons, it has blood, and it has swords. It
and
checks
and
all the boxes.
So
My bad. That's true. Yeah.
It literally has. There's aging.
Serious.
Aging.
And there's some inquisiting somewhere in the world.
This is a 10 for me. And when I say 10, I'm not talking
that,
perfect,
man. I love how much you love this game.
Because like perfect would mean I would like there's some side characters that are, not voice acted great, and there's little nitpicks, and there's some stuff that I'm like, well, I wish they would do this better, or why don't we have a run button? Of course, you can complain about all that stuff. But when I'm playing this game, I'm not sitting there going, why can't I run? Why do I have to wait until my character runs? I'm not doing that. Not because I'm making excuses, because I'm not letting stupid stuff bother me. Because I'm looking at this game and going, this is Final Fantasy? Yeah. This is not Final Fantasy. This is like ridiculously amazing. Like some of and I'm not going to spoil it, so I'm not even going to drop any hints. But some of these battles that you're fighting, if this game was called God of War, we would all be talking about how this is Game of the Year. Hands down, Game of the Year.
Yep.
Game of the Year. God of War did it again. Look at these boss fights.
Elden Ring.
These boss fights are absolutely freaking insane.
The boss fights.
Absolutely insane.
Dan, have you gotten to the city yet?
I'm literally there right now. So I'm literally standing in front
I know it sounds really vague in chat, but when I say city, you know exactly what part I'm talking about when you get there, because you look out the window and you're like, holy crap. Like it's a big city. Yeah.
And it's everything about this game. So all the characters. So when I say all the characters, I'm not just talking like Clive and his brother and I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about every single character that's important in this game that feels like that Final Fantasy party, even though they're not in your party, that you're working with to move the story forward. They're all amazing. I love all of them. Nobody gets on my nerves. I laugh at some of them. Like I think
actually there's one girl funny. Karen's actually kind of funny, and the blacksmith too is especially kind of rude.
Otto's pretty funny.
Starting out, the blacksmith gets rude, but then you do more. Nice forehead, buddy. Then you do more.
I'm like adjusting because my thighs are getting hot, melting under the damn laptop.
Hey, Grandpa, a little distance between the camera.
But the blacksmith warms up to you.
Oh my gosh!
Because there's some.
And now the camera's broken.
Yeah, the camera's broken now.
Oh God, dang it!
Go ahead, Jeff.
Anyway, but there's somebody that's introduced kind of late in the game. Her name is Mid, and I was like, Derek's gonna hate her. Like, I was so sure, but probably not though. She's actually got some spunk to her.
No, I like her. She's great and she's well acted.
Yeah,
she's not that. Yeah, like I get what you're saying. Like there's a lot of Final Fantasy characters. I'm not talking about this game, but in general, like in the series, that are the women are very like high energy, super positive, and I'm not anti super positive. I'm actually not an extremely negative person. I actually prefer positivity. It's when it's like cheesy. That's when I'm like, okay, that's cringe.
Vanilla from Final Fantasy 13.
Yeah, like I booted up Final Fantasy 13 this week. I told you it bothers me. And I started playing it, and I was like, I don't remember where I'm at, and I'm controlling Vanilla, and I'm like, oh god. And it's Vanilla and the boy. I forgot his name.
Hope.
Like, yeah, Hope. The two worst characters in all of video games. I'm like, no, please stop.
All of video games?
Yes, all of video games. They're so terrible.
To elaborate on what Derek's saying about the quality of the game, I have been in my whole strategy whenever I finish a session is to just close out the game. I do not do quick loads anymore, quick resume. I learned my lesson the hard way with Diablo 4. They kept having to do updates and server crashing, and I'm always rebooting the game. And I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to close every game. Every game I play now, I'm just going to close it.
They start up pretty quick.
With Final Fantasy, you get the logo and then it says continue. There's no square. There's no creative business unit 3. There's nothing. So it doesn't even take that long to get back in the game. And on top of that, I have had zero crashing, zero weird clipping.
That's true, man. Yeah.
Like, and I am further ahead than Derek, but not by a lot. I'm level 49 because I farm a lot. And so like I'm level 49 and I'm on literally. I have to just go start the final mission. I have nothing left. Yeah,
I'm working on all the side stuff before the final mission.
Right before the final mission, there's a ton.
Yeah. And I do want to say this. I'm going to let you finish, Jeff, but I just want to say this.
I'm going to let you finish.
Beyonce had the best.
But what I wanted to say is like one of the things that gets a lot of like negativity is the side missions, and absolutely they're stupid in the beginning. But as you keep playing it, and this goes along with what I was saying earlier, and you start getting invested in these characters, all the side quests they basically bring closure to the stories of a bunch. Keep in mind, this is a bunch of side characters that you'll start getting invested in. And a lot of them have good stories. Like, they have good, like, there's depth to them. Are they Witcher level? No. But they're still really good. They're not Final Fantasy VII. Like, I'm a teacher. I want to leave early. Can you go get my kids? Like, no, I'm not getting your kids. Like, yes,
no, I'm glad to hear that though, because I think you guys have been talking about that too, about how the side quests get better because
they matter.
They are pretty bland.
So,
no, and there's still a lot of them that are bland.
A lot of them. It's the execution is not fun. But the stories of a decent amount of them, like there's the one with Otto, right? And then he there's like that moment where he points at the cup on the counter and he's talking about Sid and everything.
Oh my gosh, that was one of the first ones that gives you a deeper side quest with a side character. Like
with like Otto, like you actually get to like really understand.
But then
like
later on in the game, there's like 8 or 9.
There's like 8 or 9 of them. That's what I'm saying.
So good. It's so thought out.
Like you said, at your little home,
everybody's backstory.
Yeah. And what's nice of like having a little center to go back to. It's like it's kind of almost like it feels like a community. Like there's all these characters there, and you're getting to know them, and obviously they have little shops and so on and so forth, and the side quests and everything. But it's like it does that thing of like you walk by somebody and they're having a conversation, and I mean to be fair, it's like the same conversation every time.
Yeah.
I wish they did have
that?
like.
Did you see that with my own two eyes?
I wish they would at least swap in, like rotate in, like kind of some different lines here and there. But that's fine. It's not a huge deal. But it does feel alive and it's nice, and it has like a nice little quaint like kind of music in the background.
Yeah.
And it just feels kind of nice.
Oh, dude, what's even cooler about the side quests is that you discover relationships that some of your side characters have with each other that you didn't know about. And then the side quest is about rekindling their connection or something like that.
Yeah.
And you're like, what? They knew each other? And then you discover this whole history you didn't know about, which is awesome.
That's cool.
because the lore is just so thought out in this game on every freaking level.
I'm telling you, I want, again, unless Clive dies, I want a part 2. I want a part 3. I think there's a lot you can do with this universe.
Even though it's only 2 continents, you could do so much. Like it's
well, yeah,
you can even expand it. Like they can multiverse it. I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, I'm saying there's a side quest that mentions where
everybody does.
I don't know where you get that whetstone. I don't know if you call. Yeah, I mean that literally. You're saying it's just the 2 islands, but technically there is there's a mention of something outside of that. So it's not like it's literally just these 2 islands.
Yeah.
I want to speak to with the joke thing of like hashtag not my Final Fantasy.
Again, we're gonna keep going. Okay.
No, but it's like it's incredibly frustrating that we finally, and maybe I said this last time, but it's like we finally have a Final Fantasy that, you know, it's checking off the boxes of things that people have complained for years. It went back to medieval fantasy. It's harkening back to the origins of crystals, like and summons being such a focal point in this. And the voice acting is literally the best it's ever been. Like remake was really good. But then there was definitely some weakness.
But even the dialogue, even the dialogue here. So not just voice acting. But the dialogue's way better.
The dialogue they clearly studied Middle Earth language. Like they make for this place or whatever. Like they're just always saying stuff that I'm like, dude, they did their homework. Like,
but I also have seen
incredible.
I've seen people complain about the language, but like, I'm sorry, like if you're like one of those, well, like because like how like
you mean the curse words?
Like, hey, tone down, baby. Yeah. Like, don't every other word be the F word, which I think that's fair, Tim. Because if literally every other word is the F word, well, then you just sound uneducated.
Final fucking fantasy.
Exactly. Are they cussing a lot? I don't feel like they cuss that much.
No, but in this game, I think it blends in well because it's. If you actually pay attention, most of the time it's either in a very intense moment.
Yeah, that's the only time I hear.
Especially early on, right?
It's definitely not over the top because there's so many games that are over the top with it. This is not one of those.
Like Atomic Heart,
But it actually almost kind of like
Atomic Heart's
because we spoke about this game having like the class system, whole like sort of slavery, racism, classism thing going on with the bears.
Only whites. Hashtag only whites.
It almost kind of like feels like any character that you speak to that looks like that maybe is higher class, like you don't really see them talking in that sort of manner, but then like anybody that maybe does seem lower class maybe has like a little more of an edge.
They're a little more straight.
Among the bears, they've been through some stuff. Yeah.
So even kind of like taking that into account and noticing that. But yeah, it's just like, listen, Final Fantasy.
Well, like to drive that point home, Jill was raised like to be a lady. And eventually, like she was like abused and used in the war system.
Yeah.
She doesn't talk like that because she was raised to be like a lady and conduct herself a certain way. Whereas Clive,
by the way, I am Jill's my girl.
Jill's great, man.
I mean, I want to protect Jill with all costs.
She's
bae.
I just want to say the main thing is like I'm sick and tired of, and especially with fans and who have been fans for years, like just shut the fuck up about this not being a Final Fantasy
Dan's game. Turning into Gertrude.
You don't
went to the doctors. They told me I'm feeling sick.
You don't get to decide. I'm tired of people saying this isn't a Final Fantasy because it doesn't have magic with MP and it doesn't have party. Like, you don't get to decide that. Square Enix does. If it's not a Final Fantasy to you, that's fine. To you. But these people having these arguments in such, like we were saying earlier, Tim, with these absolutes, like this is a Final Fantasy game, and again, even just like the checkboxing of thing, the crystals and the summons and all that, like just
the very deep, intricate lore, which some would even confuse for being convoluted. Yeah,
here's how I would describe it. Like,
it just needs to be accepted.
When I have like a favorite band, right? There's certain bands that I love. They have their thing they do, right? When they go outside of it.
Sure,
they do. They all go outside of it because they get
Incubus is a good example.
They get tired of writing the same thing over and over.
I used to love them.
I
still do.
I don't initially like it. In fact, I normally am like,
and that's fine.
That's not okay. That's not your sound.
Sure.
That's not what I want. I didn't sign up for this, right? But as I listen to it, because they're my favorite band or a band I really like, and give it time, generally you'll start to hear their stuff in it, and you'll start to appreciate what they do differently or better or worse or whatever, because it can go both ways. But you start to give it a chance. That's what I would say. I'm just going by my experience. I'm not sitting here and pretending like I'm a Final Fantasy fanboy. I started when 10 came out, and I've been a huge fan since 10. So I think I have a long track record with the series. But I'm not early days dude, where it was like I want just turn-based only, and that's it. Sure. I'm not one of those guys, right? But I will say this. I did feel it. I really did feel it in that first 10 to 15 hours. I was like, I really like this game, but it just doesn't feel like Final Fantasy. I think I'm just going to beat it and move on. I don't think this is going to be what it is. But as I kept playing it, I started feeling the Final Fantasy more. You start seeing the DNA more and more. You start accepting the changes, or you should accept the changes, because I didn't give it a 10 just to be cool. Like, it's a 10 to me because it's legit doing everything that it's set out to do at a extremely high level.
Yeah.
That's good.
You're saying that, but to me, because I'm obviously more experienced with the series, to me, this, like, right from the get-go, because to me, it's like, this feels like a combination of literally, like, Final Fantasy 1 through 5, and a little bit of 12, and a little bit of, like, tactics, even. Like, that Gav character, his outfit, literally, to me, like, if they remade Final Fantasy Tactics, to me, he looks like a character that would be in Final Fantasy Tactics.
By the way, Gav's one of my favorite characters.
Dude, he's got a great side quest in the second to last mission area.
I was actually going to say, as I was playing it, I was like, man, they really did Final Fantasy 13 with me on this. Not only did they make it really linear, but they started off like very bland and very, very linear, but it's not really a spoiler because it doesn't open up to an open world. But as you get through the game, opens up even more than I even thought it was going to open up. Then it starts going, we gave you a lot of boring side quests. Here's a bunch that are extremely interesting. It feels like most of the game is in the back end, whereas most games go, we want to catch your interest in the beginning, so we're going to hook you in the beginning, and then they kind of rush. A lot of times they'll rush the story towards the end. This game's like, we're going to take our time. We're going to take our time.
The entire game from the beginning felt like a giant build to this really epic, like the pace. That's what makes this game so freaking amazing.
The pacing's really good. I agree with Jeff. Yeah,
and how they're handing everything to you, story-wise, quest-wise.
That's actually also a pretty classic Final Fantasy thing. You have the story, you have kind of like your path to the end, but most of like the best items, like the ultimate weapons and the ultimate armor pieces, you're not getting those until the end of the game.
Yeah, like this guy, I'm not going to tell you who he is, but this is one of the final abilities you get. And it is so OP, it is unbelievable. Like, it is... if you equip it, please put it in part of your build, because holy crap, it takes off so much. It does an insane amount of attack damage. Meaning, like, when they're staggered, their health bar goes, like a third of it goes away, like, with one attack. It's crazy.
I think the band analogy there is actually good there, because you were kind of breaking down more specific, but also literally... like, that band is the band. You may not like that new album, but it's still their music, and they made it, and that's who they are. So accept it. You don't have to like it, but that is who they are, and that's what I'm trying to say with Final. Like, it's literally that is what this game is. It is a Final Fantasy game. You may not.
We all know they've released more than 16 games, but if you're just counting the main franchise, you're talking about 16 games. So. If you had a favorite band that released 16 albums, you cannot tell me you're going to like all 16 of them.
Sure. There's no way.
You can't.
Even diehard, like, I used to do a podcast with a guy who was a diehard Metallica fan, and he's like, we don't talk about Saint Anger around these parts.
Yeah,
like, that's still
which is hilarious, because Saint Anger is the only album I'll go to. I'll be like, I'm in the mood for Metallica. Let me put Saint Anger on.
But also,
so it's probably terrible that I'm saying Final Fantasy 16 is a 10. So
this series, though, even when it was, because for a long time it was predominantly turn-based, but even then they still iterated on the turn-based system.
They've always had.
So, like, this is literally just what they've always done. Now it's just leaning more action. And again, it's okay if you don't like.
Here's the thing. Also, I want to say this: like, it's leaning more action, but and we've made comparisons. We talked about it last week, where it's like, oh, it's kind of got that Game of Thrones with DMC gameplay vibe. Here's my thing. I feel like they're kind of doing their own thing, even with this action, because I'm not very good at like Devil May Cry games and all that stuff, and I've said it. I'm not using any of the easy accessories, and the reason I'm saying this is because when I play DMC or Bayonetta and all that stuff, I usually generally put it on easy because I don't do well with like, my God, like everything's flickering, flashing. I get lost.
Well, they've simplified it a little bit because like I mean you are like as Clive using basically just the sword. Whereas in Devil May Cry, like Dante's getting like all sorts of different weapons, and then attached to those weapons are all sorts of different abilities. So there's more going on there.
Yes.
But one thing is not better than the other.
Also, you unlock, and I'm not saying DMC dumps it or anything like that. They unlock stuff as well. Mm-hmm. But I'm saying with this game, you're unlocking things in a very organic way where it's not rushed and you're not overwhelmed. Yeah. So not only did they simplify it a little bit, but they also give you new abilities where everything feels fresh, but you also get to choose. So like even Jeff was like, hey, you get this, equip this. I did equip that. Guess what? It actually threw off the whole rhythm of what I've been doing. So I unequipped it and I went back to my set. You have the freedom to do whatever you want.
Yeah.
And I'm very OP. I don't know if I'm as OP as everybody else. I'm not comparing myself, but I'm literally destroying everybody, including bosses. And again, I'm not playing on easy mode. I'm playing it the way the game is designed. And I said this in the chat, and it's just my theory, but I believe it. I think we're playing easy mode right now. I think this is easy mode, and I think the real Final Fantasy game is New Game Plus. And I think that's why they released an entire video on it, because they want to sell you on, guys, we want you to play this game for 100 hours. The first session is going to be fun. It's going to introduce you to everything, but we're hiding a bunch of stuff. I'm not going to spoil it, but there's stuff in New Game Plus that's not in the original game.
Yeah, dude. So there's got to be.
And so when you
like are different in New Game Plus, like
there's even more than just enemies. And the next mode is literally called Final Fantasy mode. They didn't call it hard mode. They didn't call it super, you're going to get your ass beat mode. It's Final Fantasy mode, which tells me that that's, to me, the original design of the game. I just think they were like, it's probably a little hard, so we want to bring people in. Let's give them this version, and if they want to make it even easier, they can. And then for those that want to challenge and want that Final Fantasy feel, New Game Plus is where it's at. And that's why I'm really hyped. I'm not saying I'll beat it back to back. I want to, but I'm really hyped for New Game Plus. Like, part of my desire to rush through this was like, I need to get to New Game Plus. I need to see the ending of the game, but I want to play New Game Plus. I want to experience it. I want to unlock new things. Again, I'm not going to spoil stuff. I want to see all that stuff. So I want to get to that. But yeah, this game is great. You're going to hear me talk about it throughout the year. It's right now currently my game of the year. That means it's beat out Zelda. I haven't beat Zelda, but I already know if I go back and beat Zelda. I'm sorry, I love Zelda, but it's not what this is what I want. This is what I play games for, and it does it. And
it's not the same, or
it does it. It doesn't have the story, characters, all that stuff, and that's not to knock Zelda. I know what Zelda is.
That's what Zelda is.
I defend Zelda all the time. I know what Zelda is, and what Tears of the Kingdom does, it does at a high level, and I absolutely love and adore that game. But this is a Derek game. This is a Derek game. If anybody pays attention to what I like, this is a third-person action RPG game set in an openish world with awesome characters, great stories, and for those who don't know, I love medieval. Hence the jokes about Dragon Age all the time. That's my favorite time period. That's where I want to play my games at. So this checks all the boxes for me.
But by the way, like I'm in the third. I mean, actually, I should say I was in the third act when I finally started getting comfortable with constantly swapping icon abilities, like with the left trigger, like constantly. Like I am just constantly do every battle, especially boss fights. So that's why I felt comfortable switching to the guy behind me's ability, because my third one was one that I was using. It's the one you get from the desert area, big fight. So like I was using like the main, like the second icon ability you get, I still have, and then that one, which is like the fourth one, I think. I had for hours and hours. And then I Googled it. You can Google like best builds, and so many people have written articles about your good icon builds to use. What I didn't realize until this second to last freaking mission was you can, once you master an attack ability, you can put it on any one of your freaking icons. Like it doesn't have to match the same element every time. Just pick one from the list. If it's mastered, it'll be on there. So I with that, I switched to the Gigaflame on the, when you get it, you'll know. I switched to the Gigaflame, which deals an insanely high amount of attack damage, but I still use the second icon ability, which allows you to pull enemies close to you, and does that halfway stagger thing.
Yeah.
Which is a godsend. That is such a breather. I love that technique, dude. Yeah, but yeah, I'm just constantly switching. And this one requires a charge up, the one behind me, so you constantly have to like equip the weapon and then build it up, charge it up, and I'll do that on the way to a boss. Like, and then when I'm there, I can just unload, you know. So
I was actually gonna say, as Tim plays through it more, it's not like he's like super early. He's played enough to know if he likes it or not. But like, I was actually thinking about Tim in a non-sexual way for once.
Finally.
We got there.
That hot piece of ass. You know, it's hard to focus. But I was thinking about him, and I was like,
that's what everyone says.
I think I could definitely see Tim like chatting about like, dude, I could create some awesome builds in this game.
There are ways to do that.
Because as you keep unlocking, because as you keep unlocking there, and you have this freedom to switch to whatever you want, master whatever you want. I do love the fact that they let you refund everything. So like you don't have to have anxiety of like, well, you don't have to have anxiety like, well, I don't want to level up this because what if I unlock something that's better and I spent all my money on this or all my AP on that? You don't have to worry about that. So there's a lot of freedom in this. There's a lot of builds you can create. I've created whatever build I have. I haven't looked at any guide. I have no idea if mine's even good. I'm just looking at results and going,
yeah, you go with what you you're like, this is my rhythm and I'm in it.
But I am going to look online at other builds and be like, oh, dude, I'll be able to compare and be like, dude, I was not.
Yeah, like I mentioned with my current build, I think the highest stagger damage I've delivered is like 90,000.
Yeah.
So like I'm doing a lot of damage now to high level bosses because of the current build that I have. Because I'm just letting it, I'm letting myself get blue balls until they stagger. So like I have all this stuff, all of these heavy attack options just waiting for me when they stagger. So and you get trophies that way. I think I got like 50k damage. So.
If I had to guess, I would think my build is built more. It has a lot of power in it, but it's built more on getting you quickly staggered. Like I use, I'm not gonna mention what I'm using, but there's a certain icon that you open or you unlock that has two moves that if you do them back to back, I stagger almost every boss right away, and then I can go in and plow them.
Yeah, see, this one is definitely, I can already tell it's more of an attack one. So there's an attack one that's really good. I found a stagger one, like you said. There's a well-rounded one that was kind of already what I was using for hours. And then there's a crowd control one, which I don't really have that much like you said, it's on easy mode. That's what it feels like. It's an easy game, so crowd controlling doesn't feel like you need to have a build for that just yet. Maybe with New Game Plus when there's too many enemies.
And I like that it's
for now. I don't feel the need for it
because I've said this before. I wouldn't play Dark Souls games if they had, and I know this is going to be controversial for some people, if they were story driven like this, because I would be pissed at the amount of times I have to die to get to the next story point. So I like that this is like, hey, Derek, enjoy the story, enjoy the combat. And then on my second playthrough, I'm going to be all about like, I want to be badass at the gameplay and enjoy the world and all that stuff. It's going to be less about like, well, how do I get to the end and figure out the story? I already know the story. I don't think they're going to change the story. So
this one, you and I are at the story.
I want to get
the story. We are, we're good. We know all the chess pieces are on the board. We know exactly what they do, and we know the lore. Like there's a lot of stuff that has to do with ancient beings, like that gets revealed to you, and you're like, wow. Like
I want to say something so bad, because there's a mural at some point, and like the second I saw that, I was like, holy shit, that looks exactly like blank. And I want to say it's so bad, but I can't, because
they get more explicit with it.
But
like,
also
you kind of piece it together.
So. I've seen a big mural when you go underground, and I've been
they revealed the first one early on.
That's really early. Like I'm like a third of the way through the game.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
we're all acting like Tim
shows itself all the time.
Yeah, you're acting like I played the demo. Like I probably put 12 hours or something into this game.
I just forget how early on that part happens. But when I saw that mural, I don't know about you guys, but it reminded me of a very specific individual from one of the Final Fantasies. So
I don't have that background, but like I immediately was like, that kind of looks like something I've already seen before. Like whether it was in this game or not, it's up to.
By the way, I do want to, and Tim, if you want to shut the show down, I totally get it, because we're talking a lot.
But that's fine. I like hearing you guys go.
I just wanted to say that the other thing I wanted to compliment is the villain.
Yeah, definitely plural, because there's multiple.
They're all well done. Like they're really good. But there's one in particular. I'm not gonna even drop a hint. He's just awesome. Like he's just like, I like the way he talks.
That's a hint right there.
Oh, sorry. Assuming they all identify as he in this game.
All right, fair enough.
All about that, dude.
He is really like he's very calm and very evil looking and very
Dan,
like
Dan has seen him.
The way he talks is he's like way above everybody else, and I just like those type of villains where there's like very snotty, but they're not giving you attitude. It's just
and when you hear his background, you're like, oh, I get why he's that way. Like you totally
he's very like snooty, but he's just your typical like he's a really well done villain to where it's like you hate him. But he's not a screaming villain like the terribly written ones.
He's not like the guy in the desert fight who is like very clearly has a
like overly emotional
fantasy to fulfill.
Dude, that fight. Oh my god. But let's just. Also, like Annabelle, like holy shit, fuck that chick. Like, oh my god, like
you wait, bro.
Please, I wanna beat the shit out of, like, what an awful human being. Yeah, like what an awful human being.
Because the city part where you're at, I think that's my favorite fight. Is the end of the city. The end of the city level, and then there's a lot of story movement that happens there too. That's really good. My second favorite is the one in the desert.
I know where Dan is now.
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha.
But yeah, I just
holy city.
I mean, like for me right now, like this game, and again, I've played every single mainline Final Fantasy. I've played so much Final Fantasy in my life. It's incredibly important to me. This game to me this game's absolutely top 5. I'm just right now in my head trying to decide
top 5 all time of all video games
within Final Fantasy.
Okay.
Yeah, within Final Fantasy.
So it's behind Final Fantasy Origin, Stranger of Paradise.
Yeah, no, of course, absolutely.
Obviously.
Absolutely.
Chaos.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Chaos.
This is a really well-written game.
This is in my top 3
so that's a good
Final Fantasy games I've played.
A Final Fantasy
it's in the top
game
3.
That plays really well, but because it isn't as well written, it doesn't, like, you just don't love it. That's what sets this game apart. Like, it has the gameplay and all that, but it's so well. It's like watching a awesome.
Dude, I'll put my controller down so many times.
Well written out.
Well, again, that was my qualms with 13 and 15, and especially with 15. 15 was literally a decade of waiting for this versus game that then they turned into a mainline Final Fantasy, and they literally showed us trailers, and it was like, holy shit, this feels like it's gonna be dark and awesome. And then you play the game, and like, stuff from the trailers literally just months before the game came out weren't even in the game. Like, it's like, where is that scene? Where the hell is that scene? Damn it. Like, and so it's like coming into this game, and so far, obviously I haven't finished it, but like the story is just so, like, there's depth there, but it's easy to follow. Yeah. Like you're paying attention to the characters, and you can even go and like look up the character. That needs to be in every RPG, by the way.
Oh my god, the active time
from here on out, it needs to be great. The pulling up the thing and
do that all the time.
Yeah,
love it.
I love
you have a librarian you can go talk to and look.
Yeah, I was gonna say I love the snooty girl that's like, let me tell you how smart.
Oh my gosh, yeah, that map. Are you talking about the map girl?
Vivian.
Yeah.
Let me show you how
the map of where everybody is. It's so good. It's such a detailed.
It was hilarious because there's one like part where she's like, "How do I get you to talk to me more?" Like she's trying to flirt with Clive. He's like, "Well, say something smart." It was just like it was almost like he was trying to say,
"That's a Teague moment."
If you would actually be smart, I would. Because she kept complimenting how intelligent she was, and I was like, "Well, if you actually would say something intelligent, I'll come back to you more often."
This is I'm with Derek. I mean, this is my game of the year, but I mean, it wasn't competing with Zelda for me because I didn't grow up playing those games, so I don't really have like I'm not sitting here going, "Ooh, it's tough." For me, it was between this Jedi Survivor, Diablo 4.
Which those are great games too.
Yeah. So and Octopath Traveler 2. I mean, like that's a top 5 right there.
I didn't expect this to be my game of the year. In fact, the first 10 hours, I was actually saying. Dan's gonna get mad at this, but I was like, I like Final Fantasy 15 way more. That's what I kept saying. I was like, this is not as good as Final Fantasy 15.
I mean,
because I'm judging Final Fantasy 15 off the open world and the combat, and then as I kept playing this, I was like, Final Fantasy 15. Yeah. Sorry, buddy. You gotta go.
Again, you guys know how I am with stories. So for me, there's a consistency here where it doesn't feel like there's
gameplay is always more important to me, but I have an appreciation if you write a good story.
Yeah.
And I would tell you guys whether you agree with me or not, I would be like, it's okay. Or they're too annoying about it. No, man, none of the characters are annoying about it. Like, nobody's, like, overly dumping information that I don't care about, talking about stupid stuff I don't understand. Yeah. Everything's common sense because they've shown you it, and they're talking about what's happening, and anything you don't understand, they'll reiterate it in a non-stupid way.
Yeah, that too, and also there's sometimes where characters have, like, an existential crisis or some type of deep period of mourning, and they're not doing it for half the game annoyingly and constantly reminding you about it, like because sometimes JRPGs kind of tend to do that where you're like you're still
please
talking about
cry
that?
Here.
Can we move on?
Please
Can we move on, please? They don't do that. Instead, somebody goes away for a chapter and comes back, and you're like, oh, okay, well, he's back, awesome, yay, he's over his thing, like
yeah, so it's just
it's more organic. Everything's more organic with this game. It's great.
It feels good for this to be what this game is, and for this series, I'm just very happy that it is where. I mean, I think this is an excellent video game and an excellent Final Fantasy, and I just wish fans would put aside, like, just understand that your opinion about the various elements, again, whether it's combat or whatever, that's fine, but like, this is a well-written video game, and again, it's just so well voice act. Like, it's an excellent story. It's just such a great story, and it to me, because again, it feels very much like old Final Fantasy. It does. So I don't know why people just aren't getting that and just can't put aside the
combat. It's definitely the combat.
Yeah, and that's annoying because it's just like I get, like, that's what's getting you through the game. You're playing a video game, but like. It's not broken, though. It's not a broken game. It feels good to play, and you can make it easier for you if dodging is difficult or whatever. It's just I don't know.
Dodging is still difficult for me, and I still have that. I've always had that slow-mo dodge enabled, which has been a lifesaver for me.
It's hard to see some of the attacks with all the flashing lights for me, but I've gotten in a pattern where I strike a couple of times and then I hit dodge, and sometimes it'll just be like, it'll just be like perfect dodge, and I'll be like, I'm that good.
But yeah,
I didn't see it, but I'm that good.
Again, we could be reductive about the combat being like Devil May Cry or the game is Game of Thrones. It's like, well, first of all, there isn't just cousins doing each other in the first hour, okay? Like there is
siblings.
There's actually no incest. It's interesting.
It's not really Game of Thrones. I get the comparison because I was doing it.
Energy, right?
I would say it's Game of Thrones tone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it doesn't. It's not shock value. It's not.
Also,
It's not cringe.
I say reductive, right? Because it's like it's just easy to just be like, well, this is like that. It's the same bullshit of everyone just saying everything is a Souls game now. It's like, can you people not like understand the nuance of these things and be a little more perspective? Like
nuance in 2023, you're out of your mind.
It's like no, this is not like a Souls game. Souls games were not the first games to be difficult. Anytime a game nowadays is difficult, it's like a Souls game. It's like no, it's not. You dope. Like, do you even understand what a Soul is? So it's the same as this. It's like, well, do you even understand what games? Because Game of Thrones came after Lord of the Rings, so like, why not just say, well, has like a Lord of the Rings? It's like no, everything just always points to the most easiest reductive thing, and
everything's just Dragon Age. That's all you have to do.
Everything's Dragon Age.
My comparison for Game of Thrones mainly came from not just the tone of the story being pretty dark and everybody feeling expendable and stuff like that, but the setting and the fact that you were getting a story on a totally different continent. And you were like, okay, I don't know who these people are, whatever.
A lot of twists,
and then the way that you meet those characters eventually, and it feels
nothing wrong with that comparison.
Like
I don't understand why that's a bad comparison, but
it's not a bad comparison.
It's just too easy.
Yeah. I think a lot of people jump to, and I've seen it in another group where people jump to, oh, it's Game of Thrones, so there's going to be a lot of like, just terrible things happening for the sake of being shocking, or we're going to kill everybody that you like. And the people you don't like live, and that's not what this game is at all.
Right.
Again, I wouldn't compare
use
it
as ammunition to be like that's a bad thing, right?
I would compare it to Game of Thrones because it's complex with many characters and families.
That I would agree. It's very political.
Anyone who I actually think it's reductive to say Game of Thrones is just there for shock value and killing off characters you like. Then that's super reductive and unfair to Game of Thrones to say that. So that's just my opinion.
That's what I mean. People spin these things into being that they're attacking the thing because
My suggestion then, and we got to wrap up with this.
Yeah.
Stop talking to those people because most
I'm not talking to them.
Most people are positively reacting to this. And that's
Dan
just data.
Just going through.
So if you look even at Metacritic where people will bomb stuff like over 5,000 ratings on there, and it's at an 8.3 average. It should be a lot.
It went back up.
All I'm saying is the general response is very positive. It sold 3 million copies, which is insane for the fact that it's not on Xbox.
The highest selling PlayStation exclusive, like PlayStation 5 exclusive
in its first
period.
Week. Yeah.
Fastest selling.
I'm so happy. I'm really happy to hear that. Seriously.
This is just me scrolling through Twitter when I see somebody like sharing something good.
I get it, man.
That's your problem right there. Scrolling through Twitter.
No, but I'm saying it'll be a good tweet, and then you kind of go into it just to see what the discussion is, and then you see the morons saying.
I hear you. Yep. Yeah, it happens to all of us and stuff we love, and we get caught up in the stuff of people criticizing.
I don't respond. I don't respond at all.
But you still see it and internalize. At least I do.
Sometimes I internalize to the point where I'm like, eventually I externalize it later, and it comes off rude.
That's why I said it at the beginning, and I'll stand by it, and I'll push back a little bit against the idea that it's impossible for a Final Fantasy fan to see this, and if they're a real fan, they will love it. I don't think that's totally true. I think there are fans who are genuinely sad. They don't hate it. They're not saying not my Final Fantasy. Put those idiots to the side. Someone who grew up with the series like you did, Dan. I grew up with the series as well. I played most of them. I didn't play 1 through 3 all the way through, but I've played most of them since then.
Fake fan.
And I love the evolution of the series, but I understand and empathize with someone who says, hey, you finally brought back the lore and world like you're saying, but you took away the gameplay pieces that I loved about
that's
Final
fine.
Fantasy. But that's what I'm saying. That's all. I think there are more people that are in that boat than are on this extreme boat of 0 out of 10.
But I want 0 assholes spewing out the bull crap. I want 0 of them because again, this series has gone through its stuff, Tim, especially with the last couple of entries. So it's like we just want to come out the other end.
We got to start blaming and shit blaming all the haters. That's what we got to do. And then maybe
let's just celebrate Final Fantasy.
Some humble pie,
Well, I think the good thing is, and like Tim said, it is okay to not pay attention to them. You have, and I know Kyle would probably agree with Jeff and I on what we've said tonight. You've got 5 people on this podcast. Well, you're one of them. So you got 4 people that you're listening to that are really like it.
Love this game.
I'm talking about it like I'm talking about Mortal Kombat right now. I'm talking about this was so amazing. This is one of the greatest games ever made. Because when I was playing it, I was thinking, this is like a Witcher 3 for me. Like, so you have to start talking about this could be a top 5 all-time game for you. I'm not gonna say it right now because I'm gonna do New Game Plus, and if it doesn't hold me or I don't care about it as much, then maybe it was just emotions because I just spent the entire day in a relationship with it. But my point is that it at least had me thinking that way. So.
I like that. That's the best way to like describe how into a game you are. Like, I'm in a relationship with this game.
I'm spoken for with this game. Yeah.
I love that.
Not Tim. Derek getting all hot and sweaty with Final Fantasy.
His hair's all blown.
Why do you think I'm in my? Well, I'm in it every
Why do you
week,
think
so
his
joke
camera's
doesn't
off
work.
right now? His camera's off, and we don't know why. It's
he's over here. Like, where is it?
Yeah,
he's getting a new handful of hair gel.
Like, he's if
you know what I mean.
He's just making out with the case. Yeah, or his controller, I guess, if you got it digitally. But yeah, no, I think you've got a unanimous crew here who I think we usually have a pretty varied opinion on different games, but this is so far one of the first games that is unanimously being heralded and loved by all of us. And I know Kyle's not here, but he has already in the chat talked about how much he loves it. I'm not as far as you guys are in the game, but I have I have so little criticism of the game. Like, the only things are what I mentioned last week. They're like these tiny little like visual thing, and I've noticed it now that we talked about it. I noticed like the mouths just kind of bop bop bop.
Yeah, I've noticed that now that you mentioned it.
Yeah, later in the game too. There's a point where literally he doesn't
even bother me a little bit. Like, it truly doesn't. No. It's just things you notice. Like I noticed there's no party editing. Doesn't bother me. The game doesn't really need it. The game's great for what it's trying to do, but I still noticed it. I noticed that there's a severe lack of items and gear compared to previous Final Fantasy games where there's tons of gear to equip and manage and upgrade. There's some, it's just really scaled back. I noticed that, and I actually kind of appreciate it, to be honest, because I don't want to be overwhelmed by systems right now. So
it will start to open up though later. Like, you'll start to get in that rhythm of like, oh, I got to do this to get this piece to upgrade this piece, and it's fun. That's part of my addiction to it. Is like, ooh, I got to go hunt this monster to get this, so I can get that. Y'all know how I am.
Yeah. No, I've seen you guys chatting about that a little bit, and I think that sounds awesome. So, but yeah, I think in general, it's another case of people not playing enough of it to get a good feel for it and overreacting to it. 100%. That definitely happens.
I think also it is passion too. I think sometimes people are very like I'm very passionate about this series because it is very important to me. I do try to come at it from a more positive, but also being able to critique it fairly. And I think some people maybe come at it the other way, where they come at it from that cynical, negative point of view. Because I mean,
there are a lot of, and I'm not just making excuses. Yeah. In reality, there are a lot of people that are just hateful and negative. They don't like their lives.
Yeah.
Their number one goal is to find reasons. There's two people that I see a lot, and that's one that likes to find things to hate on, and two, there's people that like attention, so they like to find things to say that are like outrageous. And I see it all the time in Unlocked, and I literally just go in there. I actually don't fight as much as I used to fight with people online. I'll just watch them, and I'll just be like, you want attention, you're just dumb, because I've seen you post like stupid things over and over. Like, I'll watch all that stuff, but I don't react to it anymore because I'm like, I've had enough conversations with these type of people. None of them have gone, you know what? That point you just made blew my mind.
Yeah.
I've changed.
The online debaters usually don't. Yeah.
You know, nobody does that.
Very rarely.
So the only time you'll see me engage with somebody, and I'm saying this now, so tomorrow I'll fight with somebody. The only time you'll see me fight is when I'm actually in the mood to fight. And normally it's because I'm stressed and I'm like, I just want to tell somebody they're a fucking piece of shit.
Sometimes I can see Derek's looking for a fight based on what he just commented there. Sometimes I can see it. Yeah, it happens.
I think the only way to change minds is I've had it happen to me personally. Like, meaning somebody explained a viewpoint to me, and I was like, you make a good point. Let me rethink some things. And I genuinely thought about it, and it changed my lifestyle philosophy at the time.
Love that.
So the only time that can happen is really with in-person conversation. When you're doing it online, it's just people shouting their point of view at each other.
And even if your mind doesn't change, your view of an opposing opinion could drastically change. Like, hey, I actually see the nuance and point of view you're coming from, and I can empathize with it a little more. Like, there's that. To me, that's all that we should all be aiming for that. And
that should be.
I saw a lot of like, they weren't hating on Final Fantasy 16, but I saw a lot of criticisms, and I could go, even still now with me saying how much I love it, I would go, I really wish they would have done that and that and that. And yeah, I agree. But my perspective is different from this person, because this person's letting this hold them back from liking it. Those things, I can see it, I can empathize, but I'm simply going, that doesn't bother me. Like, not having a run button, or not having a gazillion different potions, or not being able to poison somebody, that doesn't bother me. I've been able to do that in a gazillion other games. Would I think it'd be cool if they did it? Yep. I think it'd be cool if they added it. You would hear me say, that's cool that I can poison people or silence them or whatever. But that's not going to hold me back from liking the game. So you can empathize and sympathize with people if you have a good conversation with them. And a lot of the people I've engaged with, they've been very respectful, and they've just been like, I like the game, but here's my issues with it. And I've been like, yeah, I get it. But for me, they're not issues.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's some people who there's a little seed of jealousy because it's only on PlayStation. Whether they're a PC gamer or
sure,
for real, I think there are people who are upset about that. But
I was really upset that it wasn't on PC, and then I realized I've been having some TV issues, and I now realize what it is. My inputs all have VRR automatically on, and when that's on and the console has it on, it screws up the image. So I was really disappointed because I haven't been liking Diablo on console and stuff like that, because I'm like, there's a bunch of ghosting, there's a lot of issues. I finally fixed the issue. I finally solved it with a lot of Google research. Now the game looks absolutely amazing. I'm not saying it wouldn't look better on PC, it would. But on my TV, it looks amazing on 4K. Everything's running great. It's a good-looking game. It's a really, really good-looking game.
I haven't had to change anything. I just literally put it on frames, whatever that is, frames mode, and it's just been... I usually sit closer to my TV, and for this one, I opted to sit on my couch. And further away, amazing. When I was close up, I was like, "This is."
I'm still doing graphics mode. I haven't tried the other mode. I've just stuck on.
I like graphics mode. I only tried the frame rate mode when I switched over to my little 1080p monitor that I always praise. I switched it over. I played like 5 hours last night on that, and if you tell the PlayStation to play on 1080p, it looked really, really good. Like, I was actually blown away. So
I'm convinced you live in like a Best Buy store, like at nighttime. The number of screens that you switch between,
guys,
and
if you ever decide to, come to Orlando to go to Disney World, because I know you're not coming to see me, tell me. I will show you all my monitors and TVs, and you'll be like, you know what? Derek's not full of shit. I now know why he's like highly critical on like image, because he's got a gazillion different screens he's looking at with 10 different consoles or PCs running on them.
All right. Yeah. And then you come to Colorado and you see mine, and your face will melt with how ugly my screen is, because it's the only option that I have out here.
What are you, a poor?
God, this looks like a.
I actually know what he has, because I used to own that monitor.
It's a nice monitor.
That's funny. That's funny.
I sold it to my pastor, but yeah, I had that 1440p monitor.
Yeah, it gets the job done. All right. Well, Final Fantasy 16 certainly delivered and beyond what I think even our most optimistic assumptions were going into this. I think even for Dan, like, there's probably a little bit of nervousness going into it, but they've delivered time and time again, and I'm excited to see what the game has for me based on what you guys are saying. And thanks for not spoiling stuff. I appreciate that, because it is nice to discover this stuff.
Like the guy behind
Clive is actually transsexual.
That's a spoiler. That is a spoiler.
Yeah,
that's a spoiler, dude.
It's fine.
That is a spoiler.
Well, let me tell you about spoilers, brother.
That's when somebody says something you don't know about a story, dude.
All right, well, that does it for us this week. Hope you guys are listening. Who are listening are playing Final Fantasy 16. If not, you definitely should.
We are doing a spoiler cast for those.
Oh, absolutely.
We will definitely do a spoiler cast.
Yeah. We'll probably do that a couple times. Not like
because we have so many combat elements to, even just that alone, we have that to discuss.
Yeah, we will.
Because I've only been saying third icon, sixth icon. Like, I've only been talking in freaking vague.
There will be a point where we all kind of will have to agree, like, hey, we've all finished the game. Listeners, if you want to hear any more about this, we're going to talk some details. Like, even if it's not an official spoiler cast, there will be times when we just have to be able to talk about it.
It's just, it is that type of game where it's like, the discovery part of it is so important to the enjoyment.
Oh,
I think.
Yeah.
So
I think so too.
It's not like Zelda where it's like you can literally do anything. So you're not really spoiling it for anybody else.
It's different because that's a game where you're almost getting ideas. It's very, very different.
Yeah.
Outside of
good ideas.
Yeah. So, all right, guys, thanks for hanging out. Thanks for listening and watching. We'll see you next time. Bye.